my rook. And then
I've been setting you up this whole time, baby.
Yeah, then why am I still single? Oh.
And the biggest, strongest event in online chess is back for another year with a matchup that I don't think there would be any better way to start this season than to have two players of this caliber and this experience in this format kicking things off. With me, Grandmaster Robert Hess. Robert, the players are here. They're ready. They're zoned in. Who you got in this match?
Well, I'm going to have to check my bracket because I just filled one out yesterday, but I think I picked Fabiano with the upset in this one. You know, I got to give my respect to Levon. He's an amazing player, but with everyone counting Fabi out, I just had to give him his fair due.
Well, as Robert just mentioned, according to our stats and the fact that both of these guys have played a lot of chess on our site and a lot of chess in this format, we were able to kind of dive into the numbers there. And as you can see, according to our odds based on the time controls, Levon is a slight favorite. But I'm with you that I think this is very close to a coin flip. I'm also going to say that from a practical perspective, I would have a hard time picking against Fabiano given that he is so active on Chess.com. He spent a lot of time on the site yesterday while John Urschel and I were having fun solving puzzles. He was busy beating up on staples like Yakov N and others. Did you jump in the Fabiano let him beat you down games yesterday?
If I had known he was playing, I would have given him a little bit of heartbreak before his match today. But I didn't see that he was playing. But it's good to get that practice in because, of course, we've seen him go down. He's a 1-2 lifetime record in the Speed Chess Championship, and for Levon, he's looking to get his first victory. So I think that Fabi's ready to keep him at a winless start.
Well, Levon is just slightly off camera right now, but for those paying close attention can see that he is sporting a Celtics jersey. We can confirm that it's Al Horford for those big Horford fans. We'll talk to Levon a little bit about the shakeup in the NBA East after the match, but let's bring up those stats just as we discussed. Right here we have the numbers. These guys, their lifetime record in the SEC. As Robert said, Levon had a very unlucky 0-2, to be perfectly honest. He had one of the most thrilling matches ever in the first year. I think you and I remember the match against Grishuk very well, right? It was so close.
Yep.
And then last year he lost a heartbreaker to Nepomniachtchi. Partly Chess.com to blame, given that there was some confusion on the rules and some connection issues. So I'll go ahead and fall on my sword for that one and say that it's about as strong of an 0-2 as I think you could have. And then you have Fabiano, right, who has also he's 1-2. He beat Ho Yifan handily in last year's first round matchup, but has struggled to get past that so far beyond that. The bracket this year, for those of you who somehow aren't familiar with what the SEC is, those are all the players. Remind you that Hikaru and Yifan will be playing on Thursday, so not too much from now. But okay, to keep focused on this specific matchup that's starting right away, actually, let's talk a little bit about the overall odds. You said you filled out your fantasy bracket, Robert. We've got all these odds here that put these guys' overall chances to win it, along with all the other players. Have you been paying too much attention to that based on their stats?
You know, I looked at the stats. I kind of shrugged it off because I'm a March Madness fan. I love it, filling out my bracket. And you can't always go with the team that's expected to win. Sometimes you got to vote for the underdog.
All right, well, regardless of the odds, let's remind everybody what the format is. It's going to be 3 hours of nonstop action. The overall season format is single elimination, so these players are always playing for their life and right to move on. It is 16 players, and 3 time controls will go down over the next 3 hours, 90 minutes of 5-minute blitz, 60 minutes of 3-minute blitz, until finally the half an hour with Bullet, the great equalizer. Prizes on the line start small and get bigger. Really, as every round moving on gets bigger and bigger for these players, and of course we're building up to the ultimate showdown. The final 4, all the final 2 matches, the semifinals and the finals, will take place December 1st and 2nd, and so we're going to start things off and find out which of these 16 chess superstars will be there. So, on that note, and thank you there, we have our first donation, Twitch sub of the day. Let's move back to our players and get this show on the road, Robert. We're 2 minutes past the hour. I think it's time for these guys to throw down.
Yep, absolutely. And I see Fabiano gets the white pieces in the first game, and knight f3. A little bit of a surprise, wouldn't you say, Danny, considering he's such a consistent e4 player?
Yeah, Fabiano joked with us before this match started this morning that he had been doing prep specifically for Levon. I think because most people know he's doing prep for Magnus right now, It was sort of poking at Levon, but who knows? Maybe he did come up with something special for the match.
That was pretty funny. He had the magazine cover with Levon's face on it. He's like, look, I've been preparing for you. And, of course, Levon, in his typical style, ribbing, taking jabs at Fabi and us. We're not free from the Levon jokes. And here we see Fabi go with the double fianchetto setup, which in the first game, pretty calm. But why is Levon spending so much time here? That's what I want to know.
Well, maybe he's trying to recall the setup he likes best. Obviously, this isn't something they face every day in terms of high-level preparation, right? If these two were playing in a classical tournament, I don't think this would be Fabiano's choice.
No, absolutely not. That's for sure. And if Magnus is watching after his game in Biel today, I don't think he's going to be expecting this in their matchup either. But I like this choice for Fabi. You get the two bishops right now. You can play G4 exactly, and you're going to get the two of them.
Does this not remind you of some of the games we saw when Levon played Nepomniachtchi? Nepo consistently sported both a London and ready type setup, and I feel like we've seen this sort of idea where the knight moves from f6 to unleash the bishop, hitting the knight on the edge of the board before.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's not Levon's first rodeo. He's very well experienced in these types of positions, and that's that knight fd7 move that hits that knight on h4. But once the knight comes back to f3 and you see Fabi play d4 here, white has more space. I think a slightly more comfortable position. The knight on a6 doesn't have the greatest future. But if I'm black, you're considering making the move c5. But when you make a move like that, you're always concerned, can a knight get to the b5 square? Is there any way for white to take advantage of that pawn push? And here white can play e4. And there e4 happens right away, gaining more space, trying to win these bishops. So I'm liking white's position and the time advantage thus far.
Yeah, a quick trade on e4, though. Black not interested, I think, in white getting a further pawn push like e5. Okay, but now the question is, I was going to say, does he retreat the bishop or be willing to part with the bishop pair? And if you're white, you maybe don't really want to take it if black comes out and quickly gets access to these dark squares, specifically the knight coming into f4, right? Yeah, so he says no thank you.
Yeah, that's a great lesson for people watching, is that you don't necessarily just want to take a bishop because you can take it. You have to also make sure you're taking care of your weaknesses as well. So by playing queen d2, you make certain the knight's not coming to f4 right yet. And now a move like c4 is very tempting for white. But then you have to think, well, if knight d5 to b6 happens, is my pawn structure being undermined? And so I'll have to do something about my b3 pawn, my c4 pawn, and you want to play the move c5 to solidify your control of the d6 square, but it also permanently gives black that d5 square in return. He's actually going for it right now. Play c5, take over the d6 square, but give up this d5 square for the rest of the game.
Well, I was going to say, are we sure he's going to play I guess he will. No, I was going to okay, if he doesn't, after takes, now if queen takes, there's d5, and if knight takes, maybe he sits on the structure, something like queen to c3 or queen b4. Okay, knight e5, another way to defend the c4 pawn, because my point is that this pawn might be able to be gathered the old-fashioned way, and if I can keep these two center pawns together rather than having to play c5 and give up this square, I'd be happy.
Yeah, and I could definitely use an old-fashioned after getting that verbal beatdown from Levon there. But you're right, he can just go and gather this b3 pawn, but I'm worried about bishop c2, Danny.
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to try to hold on to just the pawn, but maybe worth it.
Yeah, because you can go queen b4 and go after the b7 pawn, but I'm just worried that this move bishop c2 comes in. If I take on g6 right now, black takes back with the h pawn, and he played queen b4 first. But bishop c2 here, if I go c5, then black can make the move knight to a4, and it's kind of uncomfortable for both sides. But I think I like that move, a4.
We're getting the line that we talked about, though, right? Black is deciding it's worth it to hold on to this pawn, and white's saying, well, I like keeping all my pawns together, and now I'm going to try to just use a space advantage on the queen side.
Yeah, and you have to protect your b7 pawn now. So there's two ways to do that. Rook a7, and the point of rook a7 is that you can slide the queen to a8 behind it, but I'm worried about a5, a6, right? If I just play a5, I hit your knight on b6, I play a6, I undermine your protection of the c6 pawn. So that's certainly something to worry about. And if I play queen c7, well, white can still play a5 and gather more space, but then I can retreat my knight to d7, offering a trade of the knights. So he went rook a7. He likes the fact that he can double in the a file. After a5, he'll go knight to d7, offering an exchange of those knights. But I really feel like a5, a6 is just coming full steam ahead.
a5, a6, undermine the protection of the c6 pawn, everybody. Even trading on e5 doesn't really help getting rid of that knight because you still have this bishop hitting the pawn here. And we can see that analysis there favoring white, especially if we can break through, win the c6 pawn, and keep the c4 pawn. That's going to be a passer at some point. Is Fabiano... Okay, he goes a5. I was wondering if he's considering any other tactics on c6, something with no reason to go for things like bishop takes, knight takes, and fork the queen and rook, because, as you said, a6 does all the undermining that white needs here.
And I think black can try this move c5. I don't know if it actually helps, but c5 I can just take it. But, I just take with the pawn. My knight e5 is still defended. Then I have two passed c-pawns.
Perhaps people in New York could try being kinder drivers to each other, huh?
Yeah, that sounded like a little truck honk over there.
Sounded like somebody was off to the wrong foot this morning. Okay, queen c8. So black is going to try to take on b7 with the rook, everyone, gain a tempo on the queen, and maybe then try to protect the c-pawn. Although, even if you do that, the queen comes back to c3. You can't play c5 because the bishop on g2 hits b7. So I still like white's pressure. And okay, the one saving grace at this point, let's not forget, Levon is up a pawn at this exact moment, despite white's pressure. So if he can swindle his way defending the queen side, maybe this b3 pawn has something to say before it's all done. Look at the time. Levon now ahead on the clock, Robert, after starting out way ahead.
Yeah, but I was about to say this line with the queen coming in d6, because now the c6 pawn cannot be defended. If you take on e5, I simply take back with the pawn. I win your c6 pawn. Though I will say that this bishop c2 pawn b3 configuration is very neat for black in the endgame, because if we trade queens, then it's going to be very hard to actually corral that pawn, and then the knight can be very annoying coming, let's say, through c5 into d3. So
and sometimes the potential of a pawn like this, everybody, isn't just about whether you see a forcing way to punch it through, as obviously right now you can't, but just the fact that it ties white's pieces down, the fact that white constantly has to worry about moving this dark square bishop anywhere because of b2, b1. So when you're evaluating a transition into the endgame, you want to have the long-term goals in mind, and the fact that this b-pawn is kind of crippling to white's queenside plans is one of the useful things about it, even though it is blockaded right now.
And this position, bishop takes c6, looks like a great move. And the point is that I'm hitting rook and knight. If you go rook c7, the only way to keep both, I was going to go rook a8, but then you had this move knight b8 retreat, I think is the only way to not lose material. So that was a pretty interesting transition right there.
Fabi declines taking with the bishop, though, decides to trade with the queen. Perhaps you were right, though. Perhaps bishop takes would have been the stronger approach. He likes getting the queens off the board, though. Maybe he feels his c-pawn has more potential to march than black's blockaded b-pawn. But now, what would stop rook takes c4? Rook c4, rook a8, knight b8. Where is Fabiano's next move? Yeah, he goes for it. I'm not sure. Is there something with bishop a3 hitting the rook on f8 at some point?
I just like black's position, honestly. Isn't black just... Rook a8 just came in, and... So you can't sacrifice your queen for the rook because you lose your knight on d7 at the end. So that's... But can you get queen c7? Just move up. F8's protected.
Defending well, black really is. I mean, given that white had a ton of pressure. But I'm gonna go on a limb and say that Fabiano underestimated your bishop takes c6, Robert, and that's what he should have done.
Yeah, I think so. And here, okay, it's still very tricky, especially with only 1 minute and 15 seconds of counting down for both sides. If you take on d6, you give a pawn on the 6th rank, and then the king on g8 still needs to create luft. Then the a1 rook can come to a7 to try to kick this knight from the d7 square. So it's not a simple position by any means. And in order for black to make progress, you're going to have to A, ward off white's threats, and then B, move your bishop away from the c2 square.
Yeah, in order to try to get the rook there. Yeah. I'm still in the boat that I like Fabiano's position too, despite the maybe the missed bishop takes c6. But now how does he make progress? I guess the main thing too is, just like I said about the b pawn, we could say about the d pawn. It's not even whether you have a concrete win right now. This is a very dangerous pawn just because it keeps black's knight stuck on d7. There's constant threats along the back rank right now, and Levon only has 30 seconds to figure it out.
So can he just take on e4?
Take e4, take, and then rook a7?
No, but then rook a7 has no threat, because then you can't capture the knight with your rook on a8 hanging.
Ah,
so
very nice. So he trades first. Now he's probably going to play rook a8 to threaten d7?
Wait, d7 first. You can go d7, knight takes
d7. D7, knight takes, rook a8 check, and then bishop a3 at the end of the line, everybody. Robert saw it faster than Fabiano did, and I'm going to show you on the analysis board what's coming. Nope, I can't move him as fast as they are. And I think this is going to be the first win in the books for Fabiano. Okay, h6, you win the f8 knight. It's not, okay, he plays h5. It's not just over yet, only because it's blitz. Right?
But there's also few pawns remaining for white. So you're going to take on g4, because if you take on h5, black goes rook a4, kicking his bishop away.
And so if you try to defend g4 first, this rook's going to come down and make threats on the b pawn.
Well, rook f7. Okay, that's good, because after rook a4, bishop g7, there's an attack on the g7 pawn.
Really? And it was b2 would have worked there. I think
b2 where?
Rook a4, bishop f8, b2.
No, bishop b2. Don't go bishop f8.
Oh, okay, I thought you said bishop f8. I'm sorry.
Nope.
Okay, so takes g4 now, but yeah, like you said, there's not a lot of pawns for white. In an over-the-board game, we would definitely say white's going to win this. No way he's not going to be able to hold onto the f-pawn and corral all of these pawns, but who knows in blitz whether Fabiano will have as good a technique.
Yeah, so bishop b2 here. Yep.
Rook a2. Yep.
You can put bishop d4, I think might be the precise move.
Right.
Take on g7, actually. But I was worried about losing the f2 pawn. Bishop takes g7, king g6 comes in.
Yeah, I agree.
So playing bishop d4 first, exactly. Put this bishop on e3, put your rook on b7 behind
now
the
rook
pawn.
C2, though. And
Yeah,
after king g3 works. Okay.
Bishop d4 now.
Bishop d4 is going to corral this pawn.
Both take on. You can take on g7 here, or take on b2 right away. It doesn't matter. And rook e2 or rook b5 check. Yeah, this is easy now.
Yep. At this point, white can centralize everything, f4, put the bishop on a protected square, relocate the king around, and eventually start ganging up on one or two of these pawns. No way black can defend.
And that's an active king.
That is an active king, my favorite type of king. And with it comes the resignation and the first game in the books right there. Lee Prince coming through with the cheer. Thank you so much for the support. I haven't given much love to the chat here, although we do see our first spamming of the fatheads. If you are not a subscriber to our chess channel, you should do so during this match and show your love for whoever you're rooting for, whether that be Fabiano or Levon. You can do just that by letting them know. Spam a fathead, I always say. When in doubt, spam fatheads.
And I have to give Tommy Shelby a shout out, because he said Levon in the basement of a bar, which is just hilarious.
Right. The ceiling lighting does look a little bar basement-y.
Ooh, Fabi playing the French. So he's going to be difficult to pin down today. He's playing.
I know, and plus he's playing the French. Is he like trying to send a message to me and you that the French isn't as bad as previously? Rumors of the demise are greatly overrated of the French, apparently.
Well, we did see Dominguez destroy the French game after game against Georg Meyer, and then we saw Jan Nepomniachtchi crush Meyer. Well, I don't want to say crush, but great ideas in the French in the recently concluded Dortmund. So yeah. The French has seen better days, and from Fabi's point of view, he's also the French crusher. He beat both Alex Lenderman and Varakobian in the U.S. Championship on the white side of the French, and I already don't know. He's moving his pieces backward. Levon, typically not an e4 player, at least not over the board, but he's going straight for the king. Now knight h5 threatens the g7 square. He played knight f5, which of course makes sense. You need to protect the g7 pawn. And it's not so easy for white to make progress, especially without a light square bishop to play a move like bishop d3 to attack the knight in f5. And so the knight f5 sits there for a while, protects g7. Okay, bishop g5, play queen e8 now. And your queen now can actually swing over to the a4 or c6 squares, even d5, and maybe create some problems there. But white has this
It's hard not to look at these positions and just feel great about white. But I have a confession about the French.
Yes.
I played against it in my first over-the-board tournament in quite some time this weekend, and I did not win. I didn't lose, but I did not win.
That's a loss. Not beating the French is
you know
a
what?
loss.
I can't disagree with you, as John has reminded me of several times since that day. But you know what? Maybe Fabiano will bring justice to all those who know the French is lost. Wait, he's black.
Well, he's playing this very actively from the black side, because he's suggesting that white's pressure on the king side is not going to be sustainable. But this is why queen d1 is a nice looking move. Obviously, you're protecting the c2 pawn, but now you can go g4, f4, f5 in the near future, and what black is having to take care of the f6 square so he can play g6 himself.
Yeah. Shout out to Effie who just subscribed. Thank you for that. All the support. Seriously, everybody. About 2,000 of you with us now. We think that's going to grow throughout the day. Thanks for being here at the first Speed Chess Championship match, and thanks for your support. With you, all of these amazing events happen, and hopefully it's going to be a great year. Although, again, okay, so I'm hoping this is the last French we see because Levon orchestrates what we're begging for with f5, and White ends up with a massive attack against the king. What do you think?
So he just went king e8 so he can try to castle queenside.
Yeah,
now.
That's literally the king running away from his fate. He knows that there's problems coming.
So let's see. If you're black here, do you want to take twice? You don't. Well, want is strong, but do you take twice in f5 and hope that your position doesn't collapse? Oh, knight f8. Oh, yeah.
Well, he's holding, I guess, again, from the perspective that let's not assume the French is lost until it is lost.
So queen f3 here, for example?
Yeah, queen f3, queen takes c2.
F takes.
I
guess your king's just running to
d7.
d7.
I can take the bishop, and I'm actually getting out. I think maybe you want to play a move like rook f2 first, just an useful both defensive move over the c2 pawn as well as potentially attacking on the f file.
If I play queen f3, what were you going to do there?
Queen f3, I was going to play queen takes c2.
Pawn takes e6.
And then take your bishop?
And I go queen f7.
Oh,
queen f8.
you dirty dog. You're mating me. I just showed it on the analysis board for the fans at home. Yeah, okay, so let's not okay, he doesn't go for this, but certainly the pressure on the f-file is more dangerous than I thought because I admit I missed this mate sack on f8.
Well, this is really tough for black because if you play knight takes g6, the white knight goes to h5 and then the f6 square, backwards f7 pawn. If you play pawn takes g6, white can always play moves like queen f3 because if you can play queen takes c2, white can play bishop takes h6.
Well, and the other problem is, even though the king's on the original square, Robert, let's not forget it can't castle anymore, right?
Exactly.
So white could even play plans like h4, h5, try to create new avenues into the king's side. Okay, queen to c1 is another slow approach. I was thinking of ways to create more targets on the king's side, and this does that. There's also this f6 square begging for a piece to be put on it. You choose what you want to put there, and white's pretty much into it. So. Okay.
Yeah, this is not ideal.
Now bishop g5 is just on my radar with ideas of taking e7 and then queen g5. Okay, bishop h6, perhaps even stronger. Put the queen on g5 behind it.
Yeah, this looks awful. You can play bishop g7 even and put your queen on h6 there. It's just black can't really move, but I would take on g4 and just hope and pray that I'm not getting mated.
Yeah.
If you take on g4, I guess white can always trade on f8 a bunch of times and put a queen h6 check and rook to f1 and it's looking dangerous. Something like that doesn't seem good for black. But if my king can run to d7, then perhaps I get out of it. And by taking on g4 and playing king d7, maybe I can eventually play knight f5 and try to close down the position. But it looks awful. The queen's coming to g5 for white. Everything looks bad. So what is he thinking about here? What is he going to do? Hey, Danny, is it too early to resign?
It's never too early to resign in a French. I'm pretty sure that belongs on a T-shirt somewhere. He's going to trade, bring the queen in, and the rook comes to the f-file. And as my Canadian uncle once said, Bob's your uncle. So. It looks like it's pretty, queen g5, gain a tempo on the knight. There's threats of knight h5 because the g6 pawn is pinned now. Good stuff.
Yep, this is pretty straightforward. Knight h5 comes, just... Can white try, black try king f7 and just run the king? I guess king f7, queen f6 check wins e6, so that doesn't really appeal. Knight h5 here, just... Knight
h5 coming into f6 is okay, rook f1 also works, everybody, because knight f5 you can even take twice due to the fact that the g pawn is pinned to the king.
Yep.
Here comes rook f6. I'm not sure I like the rook on f6 more than the knight. You know how I feel about putting my ponies on outpost squares.
Well, rook f6, maybe there's knight g8.
Rook f6, knight g8, queen h4, king g7.
And you're living on a prayer, but you're still living. So
yeah, black is still surviving. Queen h4 check right away was also possible there. To bring the I thought if queen f4, king g7, queen f6 would pick up the e6 pawn.
Queen g8. This can't be real.
How is there not mate somewhere on the h file? Please, the chess gods, do justice to this position. Okay, knight h5. By the way, you can't take because rook h6 is mate. Everyone.
Yep.
Knight h5. But what's the next move? What's the threat?
Rook move away and then knight f6.
Okay. But if you move the rook, I can almost take on h5 because there's no rook h6 mate. So,
but e7's hanging, and if I take with the queen on e7,
yeah, okay, yeah. Moving the rook would unleash the queen hitting the knight. Okay, good enough, and good enough for both you and I to feel right that despite Danny Wrench's rustiness not beating the French this last weekend, I think the rumors of the French demise are still accurate.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, at this level, I really do wonder why these guys play the French. Fabiano crushed the French himself at the U.S. Championship. Dominguez Perez has done the same many times. So I'm just, let's leave the French hatred to a later show. But it definitely seems like a suspect choice at this point because Levon was in charge of this game from start to finish.
Look at this move: Queen h4, g5. Wait,
okay, but Queen takes g4. It's still just.
What about Rook takes f8? Oh, wait a second. I'm not winning material there.
No, I think you just have to take g4. Yeah, I agree Fabiano should not still be surviving this position at this point, but it's okay, maybe trade out f8 now, queen takes g5 with the threat of knight f6. I don't see any. Yeah, okay, Levon agrees. Seems pretty straightforward.
So maybe king h8 here. The idea being that now I can try to trade queens in the g file.
Yeah.
That way, knight f6 check doesn't come with a check. So king h8, if you go knight f6, like, oh, what? Wait, I guess it is the h6 square to defend himself from mate, but knight f6, king h8, queen g6. Oh, then you queen g7. That's exactly what I was.
Queen g6, queen g7, but queen h5, and then. No, you're right though. I think Levon must have missed some opportunity earlier when the rooks were still on the board, because you're already just less happy that you haven't mated black yet here.
So if you play knight g4, then you can just trade off the queens on h6 and... Well, let me think. Is this a winning endgame? It should be. Just you're up an h-pawn. So
yeah.
But where's your king gonna infiltrate from?
Yeah, okay. We'd have to calculate, but you'd think there's a potential way in. But you're right. There's always danger of a blockade when it's an edge pass pawn.
So king g2, good starting move. Just you can always take on h6, and you play king h3 here. So if you trade on g4, then white just plays h4, h5, and then king h4 until you lose a tempo, and then bring my king to g5, and that's game over. So
you'll probably play h4 now. Black is just kind of in zugzwang here. Okay, a4 might also be a good idea to consider, because okay, you have to worry about the b sack, and black gets his own pawn here, but.
Yeah, he took on c5, then you'll never have pass pawn. Queen takes h6, take, king g4, h4, h5, king h4, king g5, and then...
Yeah. So the point, everybody, is white's going to rush the pawn up here. Eventually, black will be in opposition and have to back up, and white will infiltrate via g5 and f6. We'll see if Fabiano plays it out. He does not. He throws in the towel, and with that, we check over to our scoreboard with all four cams and the stats. So to start out, with Levon being a 68% favorite according to our stats, he lost. Now we're back in a situation where with a win, he sort of brought things even and remains what many would consider a favorite. But we are seeing the first signs of Levon fatheads. I had to show some Levon support. Mostly Fabi fans in the chat. I'm not sure if that's surprising. It seems that way so far. But Levon strikes back. That'll teach you to stop playing the French, Robert.
I'm shocked you play the French.
Yeah.
That's
what happens when you hang out with Alejandro Ramirez for a week.
You start making good pasta sauce and playing the French.
Yeah, you may have some good pasta sauce, but you may make some bad opening choices as well. So, all right. Now we're in a Dutch with black getting f5 early. Really interesting structure here, actually. If black can play f4 this early in the game with the knight on h5 for an attack.
Well, I like black's position because now the bishop on g5, where's it going? Isn't black going to play f4 next to try to trap the bishop?
Yeah, well, h6 and g5 are also possibilities if you can, as long as you're not worried about tactics with the knight being loose on h5.
Which maybe I should be, but I'm not. So knight b3 here stops the queen from taking on b2 and gives the bishop access back to the d2 square. But I'm still not liking it when black plays f4, then the bishop on g5 is just trapped. So
As Levon leans off camera there, all I can tell, Vice, I forget his full username, saying he's just concerning to him that the players don't realize how they look on camera. Well, they're kind of focused on playing chess, and they're not professional streamers. That's our job here. So all I can say is when me and Robert are on camera, Robert looks really good. That's all I can say. I can't control if Levon leans off camera.
Wow. I love it when you lie to me.
Lie to me.
So knight on h5, so g5.
Yeah. Let's analyze that.
G5. Of course, white has at least a perpetual there, if not a mating attack. So be careful before playing a move like g5. And if you don't play g5, you can just bring your knight back to f6. But after bishop takes f6, you'll have some problems eventually on the e5 square and your backward pawn on e6. So
one of the interesting things about the bishop being here, though, Robert, is that it's okay. I was going to say, now that the knight's defended, the problem is black isn't in a rush to get g5. Black could prepare it as Levon is attempting to do. Defending both e6 and h5 means that at some point you may have a trapped bishop on h4.
Well, I want you to play g5 now because then I'll take with the bishop and then follow up with taking with the knight, trying to hit your bishop on f7 and pawn on e6. So that's the one thing that Fabiano has going from in this immediate position. That said, if black can take time so that, how do you, maybe like rook a to e8 here?
Yeah.
Defend the e6 pawn so you can play g5, but anytime you play g5, I'll take with the bishop,
right, but
take with the knight.
It's got to be a build-up, but at some point it's going to be a piece. So
right. I like this move, though, b4, because now the knight can go from b3 to c5.
Uh-huh.
And
target the
eventually,
e6 pawn.
I can even play pawn b5 myself just to kick your knight away from protection of the e5 square. And where's that knight going? As the a5 square, I guess. But I think rook a8, queen c7.
Queen c7. Maybe going to forget about trapping the bishop and prepare f4 with the battery, or he just wants the queen to be able to spy the king side as a defensive piece in case he does decide to risk g5.
Well, he does protect the bishop with the queen, which is really helpful because now if you go, let's say black is another move, plays g5, bishop takes g5, h5, knight g5, the queen protects f7, which in turn protects h5. So you do sort of save that move. The knight also can always go back to g7, which is nice for black because that defends e6 and makes sure your knight isn't hanging. So, yeah, I think black just has a good position here.
Yeah, and time is starting to suggest to us that Fabiano agrees as he's leaning in here and down almost a minute on the clock, maybe regretting his decision to risk the bishop on h4. I'm not even sure that black isn't... Okay, I guess if white played a move like b5, knight a5 seems like a no-brainer. You unleash attacking chances to c3, and the c4 square is an outpost square. But I'm not even sure that it's that big of a deal if this knight went to a dark square and let the bishop trade off just because the bishop pair will be good for black. But why allow that if you're going to trap the bishop on h4, I guess?
Yep, and I think from Fabi's perspective, he knows he's going to lose his piece no matter what, so he's trying to get a setup that's as solid as possible. So if he can take on g5, and take with the knight back on g5, play f4, the question then becomes, how is black going to break through?
Right,
yes,
that's a great point.
But there's not much room to maneuver with. So
I'm looking at that right now to show everybody your line. It's a great point that, oh, and it looks like that's exactly what's happening in the game, the line we just showed. So we'll find out if Levon thinks he can eventually maneuver his way to using that extra piece.
Ooh, c4.
This is a long-term sacrifice here for white. This isn't something where you sack a piece, everyone, because Fabiano thinks he's going to be mating the king. He's playing for long-term compensation of having a few pawns. What?
He's getting it. Like rook c1 followed by knight c4.
Yeah, rook c1, knight c4. This is maybe he's trying to show Magnus that he's not the only one who can sack a queen for long-term compensation. Fabiano trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, that game with David Navarre was awesome.
That was awesome.
And here, like, where's the queen go? If you go to e7, I may still just play knight c4 because your bishop on d6, I want to take that off the board. Your knight on d4 will be hanging if you move your bishop back to b8, let's say.
And you also you can't advance any more of these pawns here without more pieces becoming loose. So, yeah, black has his work cut out for him. I mean, a piece is a piece, and in blitz, you really have to be accurate with compensation because any false step and your initiative drizzles out, then black will be up a minor. But I agree. I like white. I also, okay, so let's say queen e7 is played. You can't play, are you going to play knight c4 and trade d6 for g5? I guess so. right? You would play knight c4 right away and allow me to take g5, but maybe that's not the right idea. Maybe you need to protect h4 first with some.
Maybe just take on f7 actually. I mean, you just get rid of that bishop, then play knight c4. Things seem to be going White's way in a position like that, and it's very unclear.
My idea at the end of lines like that is at some point I'm going to try to shoot a5, not to just try to undermine the queenside pawns for White, but try to open up the rook on a8. Okay, well, perhaps we're going to get the line you're discussing. Yep, the knight comes into c4 and
Ooh,
Black.
f4. So I was about to say, should White have gone f4 before Black played f4? Because White could have thrown in that move instead of knight c4. F4 for White, you can't go e4 because your knight on d4 would have been hanging. So maybe White missed an opportunity to play f4 first, because f4 is a very nice move, shutting down White's huge counterplay threat with attack on the e5 square. So
yeah,
Queen
and it's
G4 here. Yeah, he played Queen G4. You got to get active.
But okay, so if Black just sits on the position, it's okay. What if I play Rook A to D8? Let's overprotect the bishop on D6, so the queen is free. Consider moves like King F8 at some point to unpin the knight on G7 and start to unwind and use all of our pieces. Where's your?
I think White's going to try to play on the light squares, right? That's the one advantage that White has in the position. Can play bishop E4 and then try to maybe get something happening on the H7 square or G6. I mean, Black has to be significantly better. But if you play a move like F3 for Black, it's very committal. Your pawn is maybe overextended. You're going to have a hard time keeping it. And if you think about the material as it is, right now Black has a piece, a knight for 2 pawns. So that's actually quite a deal of compensation. So anytime if White looks to get that 3rd pawn, that would be tremendous compensation, if not a better position. So you have to be very careful in positions like this for Black.
Yeah, but again, all that said, I don't know. I mean, I get skeptical of whether White can keep the initiative in these types of positions as time pressure becomes mutual. I think it's easier sometimes to play with the extra piece, but we'll see if White can create threats on the light squares before both sides are under 30 seconds here. Both sides nearly under a minute. I like Queen F6. Again, if I'm playing Black here, I want to play King F8. I still want to try to get my knight to F5. And I expect Levon to play a move like King F8 or King H8 at some point. Try to start using his extra piece instead of just looking at it. Yakov N in the game chat saying, "Is this a special match of some kind?" Apparently, he's in his own universe. Classic Yakov. But shout out to everybody in the chat. We see all of our Twitch regulars being welcoming. Welcome everybody. We got Tommy. We got Chess Bay. We've got BJH. Timothy Connolly, Herbs, VSim. Thanks to everybody who's here.
He goes, if not, I got next, as if like he's an automatic replacement, even if they weren't playing a match. So anyway.
Yakov not only living in his own world, but presuming Levon and Fabiano would love to dive into a match with him, I guess. So.
Rook C to D1, I'm not sure about that move, because you need your rook on the open file. Taking on D6 and putting your rook to C8, for example, seem to give some chances. Now Black is consolidating. So rook F6. So what can White even do here?
Yeah, I'm starting to like Black more and more, just because despite the pressure that White has in terms of compensation, like I said, I feel like there's a lack of concrete ways that White keeps the initiative. Queen H5. I like it.
The queen trade.
G4, back that thing up. Now, maybe Fabi plays F3 to support and eventually tries to use a couple of passers.
What about rook H3 here?
Rook H3, nice, maybe, no. I think F3 makes more sense anyway, because we want to get these pawns as long-term chances for playing against the knight. But
if I'm going to lose, I'd rather lose quickly and at least threaten something. Oh, so we're down to 15-second range.
15-second range. Got to deal with the threat on C4. Knight A5, Rook F7, Levon speeding up. Here comes H4.
Just go knight E8. Okay, or not. I thought the knight would just come back to E8. The G7 square is really bad for this piece, so... Oh, there it goes.
Now G5, because there's no knight coming into H5, but Levon says, I'll fix that. Comes right back to G7. Brings the knight back into the nice square. Here comes the knight to G3 or E3.
Well, Rook H7 would have won the H-pawn right on the spot, actually.
Ah, Rook H7 was even stronger there, everybody. Back up the analysis board to show you.
What's going on? Now White got a third pawn.
Look at that. So Levon may be regretting he missed rook h7. The d6 pawn starting to run. Whoa. Only a few seconds on the clock.
Rook g1.
He has knight f1. He's threatening mate. He has to give up the rook.
d7.
Okay, but it's still not enough. All he's doing is winning back material. Still down the exchange.
Yeah, but he's down the exchange. But how many pawns does he have? And
he's
got
very few, almost no time on the clock here.
Bishop takes e4.
Bishop takes e4. Rook takes e4. Here comes the f pawn.
Okay, well, Levon, 96. No, that
here comes f2.
Nice.
Bishop f1.
It's winning for.
Got to be enough now. He gives up. Oh, okay. He wins the bishop on c4. Should be enough.
That was.
No, he didn't have knight e6. I'm freaking out because I'm thinking I'm seeing blunders and I'm not.
And both these players, we don't know how quite good they are in bullets. So.
Right.
Although Fabi held his own against Hikaru last year, and this should be an easy win, especially with the 1 second increment here.
Right.
But time trouble gets you.
Time trouble will get you. Gloria Stefan warned us the rhythm is going to get you. Okay, b6, but still, there's just not enough. Black will gobble one pawn at a time. Interesting decision there. He's just going to take c6 and queen. Nice technique, actually. Nice technique there by Levon. Winning the first player to win with the black pieces. It is Aronian, and so far he's living up to our predictive odds, Robert, as far as what we expect to happen in the match, based on the fact that a lot of what our data said is that Levon is a slightly better bullet player. So to answer that question, when the gloves come off and time scrambles, but okay, we'll see. So far it's a 2-1 lead. We have our first win with the black pieces, and Aronian jumps out to a lead.
That was crazy because now we're in a classical, slow-moving Italian game. Shout out to Fabi, who has played for Italy in the past, so he should be able to handle this position. But that was just nuts. Ending seemed like, I don't have an engine in front of me, but it seemed like things were swinging back and forth.
Yeah. Where
Levon was just so far ahead, then all of a sudden Fabi was back in it by taking the b7 pawn, but then the e4 pawn break sealed the deal. That was awesome.
Well, I mean, and again, I think in these rapid time controls, sometimes it's harder to prove the type of compensation that in an over-the-board tournament. I think the evaluation that White had enough of a bind to justify the piece was probably right, but I think it's difficult in blitz without a concrete plan. Eventually, the piece kind of proves itself.
Yep. And let's see, right now, speaking of plans, well, coming up with a plan for Black isn't always easy here. White is pressurizing the h6 square. For Black, you don't really have any central pawn breaks because White is so well defended in the center. For example, sometimes as Black, you take on d4 and play moves like c5, but with your bishop on a7, that doesn't make any sense. If you take on d4 and play for d5 as Black, then White will just push the pawn to e5, gaining more space because the bishop on c2 is strong. So playing c5 immediately is an option, but you have to, as I was going to say, you have to be careful about the h6 pawn. So he defends the h6 pawn. If I'm White here, I play rook a to d1.
Yeah, just build up.
Continue building the center. Or did I blunder my a2 pawn? Sometimes I forget that a2 pawns are hanging with bishop on e6.
You and Bobby Fischer, so you're in good company. Although that was h2. But shout out to our last sub. Thanks for being here. Death by Yander 1116 said he wants Levon to win and carry his bracket. I wonder how far he took Aronian in the bracket contest. I wonder how far we're gonna be diving into Fabi's afro if he keeps leaning in like that. We get a pretty good glimpse of his fro. He's letting his soul glow.
It looks great from that angle.
Yeah,
too.
no, he's clearly using a good danger-free shampoo. So
he needs a hair product endorsement.
Yeah. That would be good. He's got a lot of people with him right now. For anybody who follows Fabiano on social media, you know that Fabiano is preparing hard for the World Championship. He's got a chef with him. He's got a physical trainer. He's got some chess trainers.
Wait, that's what they're doing? I thought they were preparing for this match for the last 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. Yeah, no. The speed chess match definitely higher on Fabi's priority list than a World Championship match. So, all right, here comes h4. White is sort of just going to poke and prod here, and Black kind of has a perspective in this structure, sort of come and get me, big boy, because Black is very solid, not really any weaknesses long term, and if White overextends, That's what Black wants, is targets, whether it's the pawns overextend on the king side, or here he'll probably take on b3 and then play bishop b6 and try to use the a file maybe.
Yeah, I mean, taking on b3, playing bishop b6, try to trade rooks. I'm concerned about dragging the queen away to the queen side.
Well, he plays bishop b6 first. Maybe that's a smarter idea, as you said. So now you're actually threatening to take a1 without having to worry about your queen leaving the center, as you said.
Let's see. Do I attack your b5 pawn? Rook a d1, just ignoring, saying that if you play rook a2, I guess white will just play. You play rook a1. No, rook a1 back hangs b3.
Plays queen c1. Queen a8, building up on the a file.
But I definitely like black's position more than I did several moves ago. Rook a to d1 in that position looked strange, just handing over the a file. This is the type of counterplay that black needed.
Yeah.
Because now, if you play bishop b1, I follow your bishop to the first rank and play rook a1. So it's looking good.
Yeah, and there's not really any justification for moves like g4, h5 here. If your queen is going to be distracted on the queen side, you're probably not going to get any kind of meaningful attack. I still wonder about g4 and g5 for white. If you can make the dark square breakthrough work, you have some pawns on h6 and f6 to try to pry open. Okay, but no, he's kind of abandoning this idea. Probably will just settle on closing up the king side and maybe g4 now to g4 or knight f3 to h4 are two moves I consider.
I like black.
You would like black here. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. That's totally uncalled for, buddy.
I just don't see what white's doing here.
Knight g3.
It seems like white has become a little bit aimless. Now queen a3 for black. Just keep making progress.
Yeah, b3 is a problem. And you don't want to have to play d5 here and just relinquish all your center pressure. Bishop g4, that's interesting. Fabiano's going after the d4 pawn by pinning and undermining the protection on f3.
So can black continue? So if I take on f3, white's trying to claim that the two bishops are good. So knight c6 played to try to hit the d4 pawn. b4 is now a threat, a pretty big threat actually, for black. So maybe white should play b4 himself. Something to think about.
I like b4. b4 for black. If that happens, problems on these pawns. Okay, bishop d3, trying to meet b4 tactically with bishop b5.
Yeah.
Pinning the knight on c6. So Fabi's got some things to think about before he just rushes b4 ahead. But the tactics are starting to get nuts here, right? I mean, you're almost in a position where you could consider taking on d2 and playing b4 anyway, just undermining the whole center structure.
The problem is if you take on d2, I'll take with my knight, so you can never take on f3.
But if you take with the knight, then d4 is weaker. So now b4, there's all kinds of tactics where you might even sack the exchange to win the d pawn.
Yeah, but now I thought that white could play d5 with the c file being broken open. The c7 square becomes very vulnerable. So I think
I'm looking at b4 here, and what would you play after knight takes b4?
No, b4 I played d5.
Okay, I thought I could take on c3 with tempo on the knight, and that was a profitable way for me to bring this knight into d4. But okay, he doesn't go for this. Instead, he just takes straight up. He's going to trade the d pawn for the b pawn. And the end of the line, white takes on b5. Wait, is there an e5 discovered check? You know how I feel about checks. Come on, get excited, people.
I mean, e5 check, I guess you can just move your king back and say, what's your next move? But it looks scary, you know, with all these vulnerable light squares. You need a knight to go to h4 square to deliver the goods. But now...
That's an interesting move. I think he's kind of saying if you overprotect the knight with c5, now I'll take and have this e5 check to take d6? No, because the rook would be pinned on e1 at the end. So...
If you play c5, he'll probably go b4, just try to get the b5 pawn.
Well, I guess if c5, I can play e5 check right away before taking d4 and then take d6. In fact, he doesn't go. He does what you said. He just takes d4, takes b5. No more discovered checks on the docket.
So if you go rook, two options, rook c8 or rook b8, I'm sorry.
I wanted rook e5, but hey. Hey,
you're a greedy man. You're trying to win.
You know, I'm a greedy man. Yasser Sarah on chess. Okay, rook e7. But I do think keeping the rook on the e file is useful. Now move the king back, avoid discovered checks, I assume. I assume, as they say.
Now black can play d5 and try to trade off one of these ugly double pawns. But now bishop c5 to meet b4 with rook b7. Okay.
Shout out to Play the Grob, Chess Bay, and everybody spamming the Uncle Sasha emote. I don't know that Uncle Sasha is going to be here today. You know, he usually lets me handle the Speed Chess Championships professionally on my own. So, but who knows?
Did Fabi just blunder?
What did he blunder?
Well, he blundered this pawn d6. So after knight c4, he could just went bishop c5. Instead, he gave away this pawn. I don't think that was intentional.
Huh. Yeah, looking at the analysis board, after knight c4, I don't see any reason why bishop c5, although b4 would have been played on bishop c5.
He could meet with a piece in the b file, just pinning that b pawn. So I thought rook b7 would have been the response. Now look at his position, just down a pawn, and the knight went from c4 over to f5, and look at Levon breaking open the position here.
Yeah, and plus time is favoring Levon again. And ooh, this move knight h4, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
It's slick. The queen is also overworked on a8, so you can just play b5, b6, and just push that pawn.
Yeah, we got problems here if you're black. The light squares are 99 of them, and there's even ideas where you might bring the bishop to c4, I was just going to say, and then at some point you're eyeing ideas of light square issues over here. Knight g6, I like that. Queen takes, you're threatening queen f7, and that was kind of the battery I was going for with bishop c4. Yeah, I'm liking white. This would be a huge game. Levon jumping out to a 2-game lead would be an early tone setter for the match. Queen f7.
So bishop d3, just mate you on the other light squares.
Queen f7, don't I mate you on g8 anyway?
Queen f7, then I move my bishop away. Bishop takes b4. But yeah, this you have to sacrifice the exchange. And
yeah, also good enough. Okay, well, I mean, this is a big comeback at this point. Gotta be, right? Considered a big comeback.
Well, yes, dropping the first game and now winning 3 straight. It's not every day that a player of Fabiano Caruana's caliber at Queenside Castles.
To remind everybody, if you're just joining us as we're viewers are increasing, just a reminder that this is the Speed Chess Championship 2018. Levon Aronian now out to a 2-game lead against World Championship challenger Fabiano Caruana, and the American has his work cut out for him. I think Levon he came to play, right? That 0-2 record in the SEC lifetime, I think he's tired of not having a win on the board. So,
and we see all 4 games have been decisive, and I got to give a shout out to our stats guy, Chess Kid, Mr. McClan. He says that all 4 games have been decisive, and in their last 11 rapid and blitz games, 10 of those 11 have been decisive over the board. So,
these guys play chess to win it, you know?
They don't make draws.
They don't make draws.
Diagonal Lady says Levon in the mood. Wonder what he's listening to.
Well, he took off his headphones now, and he's focused. I'm sure he'll put them back on in a moment. We'll ask them, along with his feelings about the Celtics' chances now that Toronto has acquired the services of Kawhi Leonard. But their head-to-head matchup over the board, also courtesy of Mike Klein, is 7-6 in favor of Fabiano, for those of you who keep track of that sort of stuff. So these guys, that's only a 1-game difference either way, right, Robert? So this is that's why a lot of us felt this was a coin flip match coming in, even with Levon up 2 games right now.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that Levon turned his Bill Simmons podcast off and is continuing to focus on the chess here.
Yeah. I wonder if he's a New England fan in general, like of all their sports. I would guess not. I think a lot of people become Celtics fans who live outside of Boston, but partly because they're such a nationally and internationally covered team. The Celtic pride. All right. So what do we got here?
What do we got here? Well, I'm wondering what this knight's doing on g5. I guess it can come to e4, but I love black's setup. It's very flexible. You have everything well defended. The e5 pawn is covered. You have the pawn a5, which stops white from playing b4.
Yep.
Now
and d3 is really the only positional weakness on the board, which just means that white is trying to defend that pawn either, as you said, by bringing the knight to e4, which blocks the bishop, or at some point maybe you try to strike with d4 if you can get away with it tactically. But I tend to look at a lot of these open center Italian structures and feel like if white doesn't get an initiative quickly, that the long-term positional compensation is in black's favor because of this d pawn.
Right, that backwards pawn is going to be a nuisance to deal with. I was thinking that bishop b3 was going to be played. And I guess
F7,
if rook a8 happens, bishop b3 might be played. And the point is, if they're bishop g6, white can try to play for h4 and start kicking this bishop on the king side. Maybe it didn't work out.
Tommy coming through with a sub and says he has a positional weakness for Danny Wrench's body. Must have been a typo. But shout out to all 4,500 of you with us right now. A jump in viewership. So for those of you just joining the Speed Chess Championship for the first time, this is the biggest event in online chess, in the online chess world. Don't go anywhere. World champion Fabiano Caruana taking on Armenia's #1 chess superstar and chess gangster, self-described chess gangster, Levon Aronian.
Yeah, Lev is quite an interesting guy here. And, well, he's playing extremely well in the first 4 games, up 3-1 in this match. And here with the black pieces, h4 finally does happen. So black has to make an important structural decision. Do you play h6 to keep your bishop on this diagonal, which weakens some of your light squares if those bishops get traded, or play a move like queen f7, which ties your pieces down to each other, because with the queen on f7, you're saying, I need to keep an eye on the h5 square. So bishop f5
Bishop f5 is the other option, but the main reason why we like bishop f5, everyone, is it kind of prevents h5 because of the fork on g4. If it wasn't for that fork, I think white plays h5 anyway, because there's a threat of h6 to undermine all of black's pawns. But okay, Fabiano sees bishop g4, slides the queen over to g3, Robert. But here comes h5 and h4. I feel like this has become the kind of position we said that white needed to get in initiative on the king side in order to compensate for this weak backward pawn on d3, and it feels like white is starting to get some pressure. Here comes h5.
It definitely feels that way. And the bishop on c1, people may be wondering, well, that hasn't moved in a weak piece.
You know what I'm looking at now? Call me crazy, but don't call me Shirley. Can I take on h6 and play knight takes f6?
Well, I'll take on e4 if you take on h6. So
you've always been an intermezzo son of a gun. Bishop takes e4. Yeah.
So d4, look at that.
d4 opens up the bishop on c2, yeah.
It also opens up the attack on the c7 square. So if you take with the pawn on d4, I can play knight takes c7 and your rook on e trap. So
this is the idea, everybody, that Robert's pointing out. Look at that battery. Very nice.
Knight e d5 or something like that. I just want to get my pieces out. And the problems with these positions for black is your pieces are sort of stepping on each other. The knight on e7, it prevents the bishop from f8 from getting active. Oh, I don't know if I like that decision.
Well, I think he tactically was struggling with threats that the knight on e4 had. There were threats of knight c5, Robert, threats on f6. So despite the light squares, maybe he feels like he can tactically justify this move, because after the knight moves, is he just winning the d4 pawn with the queen and rook battery on d4?
But I'm happy to give up a pawn in exchange for the light square domination.
Right.
But I also thought rook e4 was better than bishop e4, because the rook on e4 protected that very d4 square. So
interesting.
I think that perhaps was an opportunity there
to guard d4 by Fabiano, and maybe even swing the rook over here. That's the line Robert was talking about. All right, well, we're going to find out if Levon can justify the weak light squares for the d pawn that he is now winning, and so we'll see who evaluated it correctly.
Yeah, just take on d4 back now.
You take, and I take with the queen, right? Then maybe you have bishop e3.
Yep.
Okay, but I even have queen b4 if not taking on e4.
Well, taking on e4 loses in exchange at the very least.
Shout out to Candy Codes, who just resubbed for 6 months at the Twitch TV Chess channel. Thank you for your support. Apparently he likes using himself some double blunder emotes, so appreciate that. He or she. I don't know, man. I'm a pawn grabber by nature. You know that. Although, actually, okay, the more I look at it, the more I wonder if I should play knight b to d5 and play positionally, making use of the fact that this is a long-term weakness, the fact that it's isolated. Because queen takes d4, yeah, it's going to get very, very risky. Levon down a minute on time now certainly has a lot to think about here before gobbling on d4.
Yeah, so I like your idea of knight b d5. You're sort of playing in the old romantic style of, well, I see an isolated pawn, I'm just going to blockade it, and I'll deal with it later.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you take that isolated pawn, now white's pieces move a little more freely, like we said, bishop e3.
So what happens on bishop e3? What if I just take e4? You take b6, right, but I move the queen. I'm sacking the exchange happily, given that I have a couple pawns, and you've just lost your light square bishop. I mean, I'm looking at the position on the analysis board thinking that this might be the best way to eliminate white's attacking chances. Okay, the extra rooks are really nice, and maybe white just plays rook d1 at the end of a line like that and grabs the center, but...
he took it.
I think Levon might risk risk it to get the biscuit in regards to simplifying this position.
Yeah, bishop e3. You could even play your move queen b4, as you mentioned earlier. That way, if knight comes to c2, you take on e4, hitting that knight on c2.
Oh, that's a nice idea. Yeah, this little maneuvering intermezzo, everyone, by Robert means that if you try to overwhelm my queen, now when I take and you take, I get an extra piece on c2. So that's more evidence that perhaps Levon can get away with this whole idea.
I would probably try to play b3 here, because of course you can't take on b3. I'll put a rook on b1, and if you do, you move your knight from b6. I'll eventually put my knight to c4. So I like protecting that c4 square and the a4 pawn as well. So queen f3 played. Okay. So I'm wondering if black can just play f5 here, saying if you take on f5, I'll give you the pawn back. And now knight's coming to d4. This is what I didn't want to see from Levon's point of view, is that this light square control is worth the pawns, right? The king is very unsafe in the h8 square, because if that queen can get in front of the bishop, there will be mating ideas. So okay, bishop d2 I don't know about, because now f5 again. I would just play f5, and if you take me, well, I'm trading off your light square bishop, and that's the only thing that's making me feel uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah, because we don't like the long-term potential, and some of the reason why Robert evaluates that, everybody, is because even if you don't see a mate, when you know you have permanent weaknesses in any sort of structure, meaning these pawns can never go back to protect the king, you always have to think about, how do I eliminate my opponent's dominance of those squares before they become a tactical problem later on. So, okay, I agreed with you that maybe f5 was right, and we'll see if Levon regrets it, Robert, because now under 30 seconds, if he ends up losing because of potential tactics on the light squares, he may wish he had that back.
Yep. And now his queen has to go c5, so you can throw in bishop e3. You can just take on b4. And the knight on e7 is doing very well to defend this king, so you need to keep it there. If I'm white, I'm trying to figure out, how do I take
I know. If I'm white, I wish I could just take my rook on e1 and eliminate the knight on e7 to do anything I could to open up access to these squares.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nuisance. So
Levon happy he's not playing bug house. We'd be asking for knights and pawns on the light squares, and black would be mated.
So bishop e3, queen c4. Now knight can go to a3 back if we don't want to trade the knights, and that gains a tempo. He took on b4. Queen takes.
Oh wait, is there bishop takes h6 lurking? He doesn't go for it. I'm wondering if there was an opportunity to take h6 with this queen takes f6, but maybe f5 would have been played anyway.
f5 is so well timed, because f5 you go bishop c2, now queen takes b2. That's a hanging pawn. Can you take it? Maybe go queen g4. Yeah, there he goes.
Get the queens off the board. Okay, white has bishop b6 in the end, though. Yeah, Fabiano finds
knight d5, knight d5. That way you trade the rooks off and attack the bishop on b6. So knight d5 here is a nice move. Oh, I don't like that.
Okay, he maybe could have traded and played bishop a5 anyway. Okay, but I hear, knight d5 was nice. This is a risky move, because now the knight is pinned, and there's threats of bishop g6 in a lot of positions, everybody.
Yeah, both of them are playing under the duress of time.
I don't know, but something about this is I'm smelling blood for white here. Look at the time. Look at the fact that the light square bishop is still on the board. I feel like black is one move away from just blundering this game away under time pressure.
I agree. Just rook f1 here for white.
Yeah, okay, rook f1 would have been nice. You don't want to play rook f2 here, I don't think. Yeah, he trades, maybe a5 now for white. Keep the pawn, make the b7 pawn backward. Yep, Fabiano goes for it. King h2.
And any rookless ending is just lost for black, as bishop c8 comes to win that b7 pawn. So if I would think about going rook a3 here, that way bishop takes b2, I have rook b3. So I like getting my rook in front of the pawns.
I would just keep the bishops on the board. Yeah, he plays bishop e1, I agree. Now maybe even g4. I think you can do it. Save the bishop and try
bishop e4 to f3, very safe square, then play b4, b5.
Nice find. b4, b5, everybody, by Robert. Uses the bishop to undermine these pawns on the light squares and eventually get the a pawn. That was a nice find.
This also does the trick.
I think he should have gone for your idea, though. This bishop is super well placed to undermine black's pawns, everybody.
Well, so black's getting some counterplay here.
Yeah.
Bishop c3 back.
Time pressure. Both sides living off the increment.
b4. Ooh,
okay, he finds a6.
I didn't like a6 there, but maybe it's still winning.
The rook is overloaded. Now the trade favors black. Rook to d2 or b2 or b8.
I don't know if this rook and pawn game is going to be winning. I don't think it is.
This looks like
g5 is good.
g5 and king g4. Very nice. h6 and king h5.
H6, king h5, with G4 is black, I think. So look at this
even here he's going to sacrifice the a pawn and hold a draw.
And then we could push his pawn down the board. You can't protect h6.
Yep.
A2.
A2, G4. It's not in time. Queen.
He might flag though. He's close to flagging.
He might flag. He's down to just a couple seconds. Fabiano's not just going to give him a draw here. Oh, he is. Okay, there you go. Wow.
Wow.
It feels like Fabiano let one slip slightly, right? Given the fact that he had a lot of pressure there with both players under time pressure. The bishop pair, your plan on the light squares was strong, right?
That was shocking return of events there. And both the players that I just looked at them on camera, they were clearly feeling the pressure of that game because Levon sort of breathed a sigh of relief after it was done.
They haven't rematched yet, so I'm analyzing this game here, highlighting Robert's plan back in the position with the bishop on f3. I think that recognizing where your opponent's weaknesses are in that endgame, driving the b-pawn, and creating a passer on the light squares was probably the most accurate approach there from Fabiano, everybody. Did my best to show it to you before this next game got aborted. Who knows why, but...
Because Fabiano got another white, where he's supposed to be black now.
Aha. They are aborting the game. And we will restart in just a moment. So, interesting stuff here so far. If we take a look at our stats, remember everybody that to start this match, based on the history of these players, not only on our site, but also just sort of an algorithm that puts together their performances through the history of the Speed Chess Championship, specifically in this format, a lot of people had Levon Aronian as a slight favorite. You can see starting there with his yellow bar, he was nearly a 70% favorite. And part of that is because, according to how we see these guys perform under time pressure, Levon tends to be slightly better in time scrambles and in the bullet portion based on these guys' results. So I'm with Robert. I feel like this match is a little more of a coin flip than the stats would suggest, but right now Levon holds a 2-game lead. And Robert, give me your 30-second summary on what you've seen so far in this match as far as the overall reason why Levon is up 2 games.
Well, Levon's been getting great positions at the opening. Fabiano played the French defense in one game, and I say that with kind of disdain.
Was it hard to get that out, that he played the French defense in one game? Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He played the French, and he got absolutely pummeled in that one. And then with the black pieces in that game where we saw Levon go up a minor piece and win the game, Levon has been very solid. He's been playing aggressively, but not over-ambitiously.
Right.
So he's taking his chances when they come to him rather than just forcing the issue. Now, Fabiano, I didn't like his choice in this particular game because it's a very solid setup here in the Sicilian. And one nice thing that Fabiano is doing that we haven't seen in some other matches, he's playing a different opening pretty much every game.
Yeah.
So he played knight f3.
Maybe one reason why he played the French, but that's an opening I doubt he'll revisit.
Right. But he is dabbling across the board. And so we're seeing that it makes it hard for Levon to just pinpoint his weakness because it's kind of like shooting a target that's moving all over the place, right?
But highlighting the fact that Levon is up a couple games at this point as we move back to the analysis board, I mean, is that strategy maybe not working, or you feel like this is an investment in the long term? You think that Fabiano is sort of probing right now, trying to find something he likes so that as the time controls get faster, he's got an opening that he's prepared to play against Levon and Bullet. How much do you think Matt's strategy is playing into the fact that he's bouncing around a lot in the first stage?
Yeah, I definitely see your point. I just think that some of these games have come down to time trouble. Like that last game, Fabiano should have won. I mean, for sure, he outplayed him throughout a large portion of the game. Levon was playing resourcefully, but he also got himself into huge time trouble. And I don't know. I think that Fabiano should not be counting himself out at all.
Okay.
That the 2-game lead for Levon is not insurmountable by any means. And I do question both players' bullet skills. I have no idea who is the superior bullet player. And in this particular game that we have on the board right now, I like Black's position. You have firm control over many of the game's vital squares. There's no kingside pawn break for White, which means that Black can start playing on the queen side. I think
use the C file particularly because this is a backward pawn.
Yeah, we see a great Sicilian for Black. There are no knights coming to the D5 square because all the knights are traded. If you ever G4 is one of those over ambitious things. Now I can just put a rook on C8, either one, and go for the C pawn. If you go rook F2, I go bishop H4, and you can't protect your C pawn anymore. So in fact, I think Black's just winning the C pawn by brute force. Just take on C2 now, or play F6 first. Actually, I would start with F6.
Well, like I don't expect to see a French, I'm going to make a prediction that I don't know if Fabiano plays the Sicilian again, that Levon goes back to this G3 system he chose here. I'm not sure that he feels that way yet, but it feels like black equalized very early with this expansion on the queen side. And Fabiano playing very quickly, almost a minute up on the clock here, shows he kind of knows this Sicilian that we're showing on the analysis board perhaps a little bit better than Levon, being that he's up on the clock. And as you said, the c2 pawn is a problem. How are you going to defend it?
He definitely knows something better than Levon because Levon's not an e4 player. And that doesn't mean he doesn't study these games, but Fabiano does have experience playing the Sicilian as black. Right. And he's an e4 player as white, so he gets these positions from the white side as well.
Yep, one of the few players with the guts to take on someone like MVL and the Najdorf is Fabiano, who's shown willingness to do that both in classical and when he played Maxime in the Speed Chess Championship last year.
Yep. So now I think that this is a game that Fabiano really has to
take. I agree. This is a game that, with a minute up on the clock here, c2 hanging, d5 being in the air, which is a very common break, everybody, in the Sicilian. If black can break on d5 and bring even more pieces out in the center, white is really in trouble. But okay, Levon plays rook f3. He's all in right now on the attack, right? He's trying to say, I'm going to defend the c2 pawn not by defending it, but by attacking. Sure,
but just rook g8, so I'm just defending my g file. This may be the reason why rook b to c8 could have been, this rook on c8 was such a good move because the rook can swing back to the king side for black without wasting time on this pawn on c3. So now if I'm black, do I play d5 to get my dark square bishop out, or do I just take on g3? Do I play queen d7? Okay, taking on g3, and now I'm waiting for queen d7 to come because queen d7 allows black to play d5 to undermine the defense of the f5 pawn, and also threatens the pawn on a4. So queen d7 here is great.
Yeah, I agree. I just highlighted, I think that's a great move. Queen d7, there will be a break on d5, f5 will fall, and there will be subs being gifted here. Shout out to Distant Fire, who just gifted. Jaren is carrying a sub to the chess channel here. Appreciate all three that you've gifted here. More than 6,000, 6,500 of you with us. Don't go anywhere. The action's just beginning. We only have 20 minutes left in the 5-minute portion before we move on to 3-minute chess and before Robert starts to get crazy. That's what happens in 3-minute. Robert gets wild.
A little bit. I can't control myself here, but right now I'm really digging Fabi's position. Yes, his back rank issues and his king is stuck on h8, but the tactics are very much working in his favor. And if black had another move, well, I can't take on e4, but I can play a move like queen to e8, trying to snake my queen over the h5 square.
Yeah.
If you look at the white king, it's not actually that safe. There might be some problem from the dark squares as well.
I love that point. I just highlighted that with these dark squares being a problem, maybe there's a mating net in white's future. If white can put the queen on h5 and bring the bishop out, look for that king on h2 to not be as safe as he looks like he is right now.
So look at the clock situation.
Yeah, I agree. No, this is as you said, Levon not an e4 player by trade and certainly doesn't get a lot of Sicilians. Maybe this is the last time we see him dive into this stuff.
Danny, what kind of light do you think Levon has? I'm very curious. I can't help but stare at it.
It's a disco strobe light. One fun fact about Levon Aronian, just in his free time, he practices his dance moves all day. That's all he does. So maybe he's into those. You've heard about those like silent raves now where everybody has headphones on?
Yeah.
Maybe he's into silent raves.
So bishop f3 was played. So does black go queen c8 here or bishop d6? Queen c8, I think I'd go. Just to get out of the pin.
Bishop whoa, d4. Undermining. He's not going to continue the pressure here. What does he see about the e4 pawn that he likes here? Maybe bishop c6 and queen b7?
I think I'll start either with, well, he can play rook c8 to c3. I'm not sure if I'm getting mated, on the g file quite yet. So, all right, plays queen there. Now, I don't want to go queen c3, though. Although if you're queen c3, if you trade on c3, I can take the b pawn, and that would be a very favorable exchange for black. But white should go queen g2, probably. Just swing the queen over to the king side. It's important to note the bishop on h6 does protect the rook on c1.
Yeah, it's important to note that everybody in New York has a car alarm too, so we appreciate that. I'm a little surprised by d4 by Fabiano, Robert. Honestly, I feel like maybe that wasn't necessary yet to ease the tension there. Okay. So Levon wants to play moves like rook d2, bishop d1 to overprotect c2, then play rook d3 and kick the queen out. Okay, so bishop a6 stops that.
I just want black to play bishop f8 at some point to try to trade off the bishop. It's really annoying me that I can't maneuver my king at all. And so now bishop c5. Oh, bishop c5 also an option. One of those moves.
Bishop c5 threatens d3, but he decides that he likes your plan of relieving the dark squares.
So let's see. Queen h4, going for the f6 pawn. Yep, there it's played.
Shout out to Chess Bay for the sub to Nerf Hachacha. Appreciate it.
So what can I do here? I can take on h6. No, I don't know if I like that. Bishop h6, queen h6, rook g7. That way you don't take on f6 with check. Your rook on d2 is hanging. Your bishop on f3 is hanging. So maybe they're tactically, I can get away with that.
Yeah, and one point at the end of that line is if white plays a move like rook f2, then black is eventually shooting d3, which is going to undermine both the b and the a pawn to win on the queen side.
Yeah, queen e3 is a great queen trade for blacks as well, so you have to be careful about that.
Yeah.
So bishop h6, queen h6, rook g7. How does white continue there? A lot of hanging pieces.
I don't know how Chess Bay continues to gift subs. She's up to 70 gifted subs on our channel. Thank you for that last one to Hallelujah Cat. Thank you to everybody that's here. We almost crossed 7,000 viewers. We appreciate all of you sticking around right now because it's only going to get more exciting. Fabiano needs to win this game. He's been better from the start. Levon doesn't really have any business playing in the Sicilian with Fabiano at this level, so black is better, but now both sides are under a minute, Robert, and Fabiano still hasn't proven anything yet on the queen side. But here comes d3 maybe. d3, b3 is going to be undermined, and I'm nervous about white's position.
Well, I'm nervous about playing d3 because queen a7 looks annoying as well.
That's a shot. That is a shot right there.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Just queen a7 hitting the bishop on a6, but maybe you can get away with it.
That's how blunders are made right there.
Wait, can I? I want to play queen b2 just so I can go after the c pawn, but you probably just go queen f2 back, and then what's my queen doing on the b2 square?
Wow. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, all of our subs. Queen b2, bishop d1. Okay, but now white has actually coordinated a shot of g5 coming in. Don't fall asleep on the g pawn breaking, and all of a sudden this king is under fire.
Well, queen c3, either now, if you play g5, maybe I can play queen c3 as a reaction. So that actually, oh, queen c1.
Wow, queen c1. The rook is pinned to the bishop on h6. Backs the queen up to g2.
Wait, now bishop f8. Okay.
Bishop e7 threatens to take e4 because this queen
look
is
at the clock situation. Levon is less
overloaded.
than 10 seconds.
Levon has to play bishop f3. I don't know. Okay, I don't know why he took so much time there. I think that was the only move. Now perhaps rook e. Oh, rook e2 would have allowed queen h4.
So rook c3 here. Yep.
Okay, it looks like Fabiano's going to convert.
Take queen c3.
Takes queen to c3. Go after the b and the a pawn and just win yourself an endgame.
Whoa. Wait,
Fabiano wants more. Oh, queen b1 was a blunder.
Wait, queen's coming over to b5 and to e8 and mate. You can't stop mate.
Oh my gosh! What a turnaround! It doesn't matter. He brings the queen in anyway.
Wait, he blundered back. Queen f2. Queen f2 now.
Queen f2.
The wrong square. Queen b5 threatened mate on the spot. Now play.
Okay, queen b5 again is winning. He still gets the win. Oh my gosh! What a turnaround! And Levon leans in and brushes his shoulder off. Literally, that was a shoulder brush off right there. Did you see that?
I did see that.
I mean, I think he did. I think Levon knows what he was doing. I think he just went and brushed his shoulder off after making a huge comeback to take a 3-game lead against the American. Wow. What did Fabiano do wrong? I mean, he was crushing the whole time, pressure on the queen side, yet didn't convert. Eventually, mutual time pressure got him, which again, a lot of what I look at this match as what will be the separator if Levon wins, which is time scrambles and bullet. And so we'll see if Fabiano can prove us wrong. Thank you, Liquid Product. Appreciate the bits and the mind-blowingness. Yeah, that was amazing. An amazing finish.
That was unbelievable. And I think that we've seen this from Fabi in over-the-board chess plenty of times. In the Grand Chess Tour, he gets low on the clock, he makes blunders, and he had a great position there. And Aronian in the preview said that he was worried about being flagged, but now he's won 2 games on time. So
yeah, one thing I don't know that we've talked a lot about, Robert, and only because it's more abstract than, of course, the X's and O's going on. But let's remember that this year's SCC has only a 1-second increment. Last year, both the 5-minute and the 3-minute portions were a 2-second increment. This time, those time scrambles maybe won't allow for quite the same quality chess when you're down on the clock, right? I mean, right now, given that we've seen a couple of games that were lost either on time or because of time, I think that's an interesting thing to note.
For sure. That difference is actually monumental. People may not realize that the difference between 2 second and 1 second increment is humongous.
Huge. Yeah. And, okay.
So now we F4. I guess I just move my bishop away and I'm happy. Okay, I like what Fabi did here. He played the same opening, the London. He repeated the initial moves, but he found an improvement because all of a sudden Black is looking a bit vulnerable on some of these squares, like the 6th rank pawns, G6, F6, E6. They stop White's pieces from pushing forward, but at the same time, they could become victim to a swift attack. Something like H4, H5 is not out of the question. I mean, it is with the knight on G7, but if that knight moves to F5, for example, and B6. So, okay, I like how Levon's handling this as well.
It looks sitting
like
tight, I guess.
Yeah, it looks like White has this spatial advantage. You could take on C4 at some point and try to put a knight on D5. So I might do that right now.
Obviously the risk, though, is that E6 becomes a target, but I guess what you're saying is with the knight on D5, there's not really any way to get pressure against the pawn. Okay, interesting.
This is funny. Someone just goes, wasn't there friction between Danny and Hess? I don't know if we've ever had friction.
Everybody, depending on who you're dealing with in the chess community, some I think struggle a little more with our sarcastic sense of humor. But they don't know that for us it's just pillow talk,
Yeah. You know the song "How Deep Is Your Love"? Well,
right.
It's like an ocean, right?
Right. And our love is not just water under the bridge. Thank you. Shout out to Chess Bay, her favorite Adele song, and she doesn't think I pay attention to her in chat, Okay, well, Levon's sitting tight, as you said. The knight on D5 blocking further pressure from arriving at the E6 pawn. But okay, look out for, again, I like to look at the bigger picture of where the game is headed from knowing what the format of this match is, the time control, the fact that at some point it will become an issue. And I look at the fact that Black's king is potentially weak, even though right now it doesn't seem so with so many pieces crowded around. I don't know. I get a little bit more nervous about Black's position than maybe others right here. And the fact that he's down a minute on the clock has me a little worried.
Yeah, the time situation is great for Fabi, but he needs all the time he can get. As we've seen, he's been blundering away, stumbling, fumbling in short time stretches when he just has 10 seconds on the clock. He's the one making the critical blunders. Levon is the one who's taking in the full point.
Chessbay just speculated about another purpose of Levon's light that I won't say on camera, but interesting. Okay, sorry. Bishop B3 to the chess.
I totally missed that. I wish I'd seen. But with a bishop on B3, you can always capture this knight on D5. I would never rush that capture. Some people say, oh, maybe I can get good knight against bad bishop. But the bishop on D7 is bad as it currently sits. It's not bad when you take on D5. It opens up new diagonals for it. And now you can play, like I said before, ideas with take on C8, play H4. I'm just going to poke and prod at the king side. Now, wait, knight C3 now might be, and he played it.
Yeah, I like that move.
The E6 pawn just come right after it.
No, a great way to undermine weak pawns on open files, especially if they've been successfully guarded like this, is to attack the lead pawn. And even though this isn't a pawn here, sometimes you might undermine that with a move like C4. Here you're trying to dislodge the knight to do everything you can to open up threats against E6. So knight C3 was a nice move.
So now H4?
I think H4 and H5 makes a lot of sense. You don't want to play D5, everybody, because Black will strike back with E5. He's not going to take and open up the position. Okay, H4, there's moves like Queen F4 and H5 coming. Again, time combined with the potentially weak king here because all these pawns have advanced. I'm again liking Fabiano's chances.
Whoa, H5 was not expecting that. I actually didn't like the move Queen F4. I thought knight E2 to F4 was a smarter way to play this, just rerouting that knight towards the king side.
Knight E2 to F4 and then maybe even put the bishop on C2. I like it, partner. Maybe that would have been better. I think there's still shots of bishop C2 in a lot of positions because of the G6 pawn.
Yep.
So I think we still like Fabiano, but maybe you're right. Maybe this knight relocation was a missed opportunity. Fabiano needs a win, man. Feels bad, man, to be down 3.
especially when he started the match with a victory.
Yep. He hasn't won since the first game. #stats. And with only 10 minutes left in the 5-minute portion, it's possible this is their second to last game. I don't think this will be the last game. I think probably one more after this.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
E-pawn is not hanging victory condition. The knight on c7 and the bishop on c8 guard it. But g6 is weak. So Fabiano's trying to, you know what he's probably thinking about, Robert? He's probably considering g4 here. Maybe.
Wow.
No. Okay, he plays bishop c2, but I think he's looking for something to be aggressive. But that might be something that backfires. Maybe best not to never go full Danny Wrench.
Honestly, g4 is an interesting idea because with the king now in g7, g4, the rook can't go to g7 to protect g6. So g4, pawn takes g4, queen g4, knight f5. I can go h5 is white, but then you'll go g5. It's getting kind of messy on that side of the board.
So maybe there's ideas like d5 if g5, because f5 can be undermined.
Oh, I like that too.
So
yeah, I was going to say the main drawback in a position like that is that you ruin your pawn structure as well.
Robert, he went full Danny Wrench.
Yep, h5 now.
We're going to see your line. I like your idea of h5 and then d5. I think that Fabi gets a good attack here. Okay.
So h5, g5. That looks pretty good.
h5, g5, d5. So let's look at that on the analysis board. What's the tactics? So the idea, everybody, is if you move this pawn, white would have been winning the knight here. But instead, Fabiano plays knight e4. Okay. That actually threatens knight g3 because the knight on f5 is pinned to the g6 connection by the queen and bishop.
It also threatens h5 where you can't go g5 because I'll take with my knights.
Ah. Thank you, Winston Checkhill.
Winston Checkhill, what a name.
Almost as cool as Winston Churchill, but we like it. King h8. Here comes h5 or knight g3. Pick your poison. Don't take g6, everybody, because pins happen.
Well, h5 actually might have been bad because just g takes h5 and your queen is going to get in trouble to rook h7.
Yep. Always avoid these, except in Twitch chat. There you go. That's your pin. Queen g8. Okay, Levon's defending. h5 and
h5 now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, he doesn't go for it. He wants to. It's not the worst idea to just sort of sit tight when your opponent is under stress like this, everybody, because in theory, the longer they're in a bad position, the harder it is to play, and the more likely they get under time pressure or blunder. But at the same time, the counter argument to that, to play devil's advocate, is Fabiano has failed to convert on some better positions a couple times today, and you have to calculate accurately at some point if white's going to get this attack. So that's my worry with bishop e3 is he going to get under a minute and still not have the pressure against this black king that we've been calling for?
Yeah, I see two ideas here. One is to play queen f4 and threaten queen h6 check perhaps at some moment, or queen d6, because there are no pieces on black's queen side.
Yeah.
So if I can play queen f4, hit the knight on
on c7
square. If you play knight d5, I will go my queen at d6, and I'm just poking and prodding, waiting for the right moment to kind of unleash my real plan. But look at the clock situation.
No, I agree with you. But again, we're getting into time pressure here, and Fabiano needs to find some pressure. You can see he's leaned in and focus. Levon.
But that's the thing. When you're playing blitz, you can't just spend 25 seconds at this point in the game. So you actually spent 53 seconds and play them with queen h3.
I agree. Intuition is key rather than trying to find the best move in many cases. Knight f5. Now black has knight f4 coming in some positions. You have to watch out. King h2. He wants to get the g file.
So g5. Just go g5. You can't take because their h file is
even
deficit.
Knight h4 and then g5. After queen g4, he's going to play g5. No. Knight h5, what's he doing? He's just... You know what? The tables have turned, and Levon is saying, I'm not going to change anything about this because Fabi's the one under time pressure now.
Wait, queen g6, and then I hang a pawn?
Oh, there was queen to c7 check, perhaps?
And then I go knight e5, maybe? I don't know. It's a lot to calculate, but knight e5 looked like...
Now king f1, maybe. No, king f1, there's bishop a6. You can't run the king out. Wow. Levon is defending this position. Could be a huge one. Only 5 minutes left in 5 minutes.
And White's position's terrible. Look at all these weak pawns. No, this is terrible.
Something completely backfired there for Fabiano. Struggling to convert on his pressure.
Wait, could he go knight e5 there? The g6 pawn was vulnerable. I think he missed knight c to e5.
Oh, wow.
Or one of the knights e5.
I'm backing up on the analysis board to show everybody your idea because I like it that much. If knight e5 takes, shake and bake, g6 is a problem. Maybe that was Fabiano's last chance. If this one slips...
Now we're in an endgame where it looks like it should...
But it looks like black shouldn't lose, right? I mean... Okay, you can't... Oh, rook d7. Doesn't that... Oh, then you can take on f3 with the rook. Okay. So black really shouldn't lose this despite being down only 5 seconds.
Why did Fabi not take the knight on d4
and take f6? I think he thought he had some sort of mating net against the king on the h-file.
Okay, well, this looks like...
Yeah, don't take b5. That would have been knight d4.
No, table's turn. King e2. King d2. Take that. You win a piece.
Oh, he tricks him. The rook got overwhelmed.
Yeah, but this is still...
probably should be a draw, but still, with only 6 seconds, this is definitely Fabiano's best winning chance he's had in some time.
King h5, yep.
King f4's maybe now king f6. Okay. f4, you can take on f4. Okay, can Levon hold this? We know this should be a theoretical draw. This should be a theoretical draw, but
wait, didn't he have rook g4 there? I think he missed...
Rook g4 was just winning?
Yeah, I think it was winning. These are weird endgames.
Yeah, these are because the knight and king are not. You can see the computer evaluation bar has no idea really what's going on. But now it's a draw. Okay, and indeed Fabiano just accepts it. The biggest opportunity, everybody, and one of the ways to educationally learn how to win this is you want to separate the king and knight. So a move like rook g4 is what Robert's idea is. You can't play king h2 because of check. And if you move the knight to f6, there's moves like rook g5, and then suddenly black is in some sort of zugzwang. So with that rook g4, rook g5 idea, that might have been Fabiano's chance to win. Now he's going to be, at best, even if he wins this game, taking a 3-game deficit into the 3-minute portion. So another one slips away for the American.
Yep. And he needs to win this to cut the deficit to 2 points because, you can't just be living down 3 games and hoping that in the quicker time controls you'll make things happen, because we've seen as the clock ticks lower and lower, Fabiano's play gets worse. Although he did just save a tough endgame there.
He did. He saved an endgame, a tough one under time pressure. It was hard to say, maybe poetic justice, the fact that it was a draw, because I think both sides had chances to win that game.
Did you see that?
What?
Levon just got a nice kiss in the cheek there.
Oh, yeah? From Aronian?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
He doesn't need a good luck charm, but that
he doesn't need a good luck charm. He has his wifey there supporting him.
Isn't his position dominant here with the white pieces?
Yeah, maybe that's why she gave him a kiss. She said, "That's my boy. You take down that Benoni structure, and you take it down hard."
Well, this looks terrible for black.
E5 happens in the Benoni, and I could use some bologna. Seriously though, we're gonna get some lunch after this.
And it's a great Benoni structure for white because you haven't committed your c-pawn anywhere. Normally in these Benonis, you're left with a pawn e4 that the rook can come to e8 and attack. There's nothing for black to attack here. So just play bishop f4 back.
Yep.
Then put your knight on e4 eventually. Play for d6.
Well, I think if Levon moves on in this match, I can already say our next match will have an emote with Levon with some red lipstick on the cheek.
Maybe it's not so bad for black here. I'm trying to evaluate this. I think Levon's thinking about playing d6 here. He played bishop g3, which is smart.
Yeah. Okay. f5 is a move that almost desperate about the fact that black is really struggling to coordinate the king side. He'll put the bishop on f6, probably bring it back to g7 and try to get the knight to f6. But still, this is a position that just feels like white is an accurate move or two away from crushing. I was going to say bring the knight to d5 and c7, grab the e-file, and feels bad, man. Yeah,
this is awful. And Matrix says, "No, Robert, please. This is pretty bad."
Yeah,
it's just I'm trying to come up with something for black here, but this is looking atrocious.
And only 45, 44, less than a minute left. The players have been notified that this is their last game. We have had some stat confirmation. our team working super hard behind the scenes. Thank you to everyone at Chess.com. Apparently, they did just check that last position because they like us to be look as smart as possible. Apparently, it was not a win. There was no missed win for Levon, for Fabiano. But still, an instructive point for those of you who've been with us to separate the rook and the king and knight is how you can win with a king and rook. Even though it's easier said than done. Okay, Queen E2. You're gonna poke the bishop out of D4. Put the other rook over here.
Take on D5 and play knight F6. You have to. Okay, you did it. In these positions, Danny, and I've had many cramped, awful positions in my day. Sometimes you have to unleash, and even if you give white the permanent advantage of these two bishops.
Yeah. That's interesting. He wants to trade off bishops so that the dark squares are a permanent problem. I like that move. I like C3.
Yeah, rook E8 maybe, just try to keep the bishop. I don't know. It looks not great.
No, it feels like Levon is, once the smoke clears here, these bishops will be gone, the dark squares will be weak, and the d-pawn will likely still be standing. So Fabiano has his work cut out for him to swindle something here.
Looks really bad. I mean, bishop E6, knight E4, pawn takes D4. You get rid of the dark square bishop, so you can place your bishop on the E5 square. This was a bad choice by Fabi in this game.
Yeah, I mean, not quite as bad as the French decision. For those who missed the great debacle of the SCC French decision, it'll go down in history. But here he plays a Benoni structure, which is equivalent to the French against D4, I like to say. Just giving yourself a worse position and praying your opponent screws up. It's like your openings. You used to play those kind of openings, right?
Don't you dare insult my openings.
What do you mean? You don't even have openings, bro, and you know
it. That's why I don't want you to insult them. They don't exist. How can you insult something you can't see?
Hey, there you go, right?
All right. Queen C4 here.
Queen C4. Owie. Owie.
Queen, this looks bad. This looks really bad. Well, what does white do here now? Because, so knight D2. You win an exchange.
Yeah, but it's an exchange sack. I mean, so much pressure. The players have been notified. Let's make sure that they are also notified via the Chess.com game chat that no more games to go. We'll be ready to abort in case they miss it. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, they just keep playing.
So, do I play Queen F7?
I don't know what you play, but I'm playing Bishop C3, Queen D4, and the in-laws are invited to dinner on G7 and H8.
Queen F7 to stop your exact plan.
You can't stop my plan. You can hope to contain it. You can hope to contain it.
I can contain you.
Okay, Bishop C3. I guard back on E1. How are you stopping my plan? What are you talking about?
H6 or H5, one of those moves.
Okay, Queen D4.
And King H7. Thank you.
Okay, like I said, you've contained it for now, but I always say weak dark squares are like inviting the in-laws to dinner. You can't get rid of them.
Did you just make that up right now? I've never heard you say that before.
I actually have said that before.
Well, I guess I ignore you when you talk about your
You know what? Hey, join the club.
It's just rude.
There literally is a club for ignoring Danny Wrench. You can join it if you want.
I hope your wife forgives you.
Yeah. Okay, the other thing that white has here, seriously, is b4, b5, and at some point, we have a lot of pawns over here that are about to become passed. What is the deal with New York and car alarms? I mean, the stereotype is true, man.
There's not even a car alarm. That sounds like police. And I see some lights outside, so I assume that the police are driving by.
Okay, here comes b4 and b5. What is Levon waiting for? Let's bring the heat to the queen side. Prepare for the coming of the pawns. Winter is coming.
So when can I go b6? It doesn't help, right? You're just going to go b4 and then wait. So if I go b6, you go b4, I go a5. Can I somehow undermine your pawn structure?
Ooh, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
I needed to do it.
I actually think that's a good. Yeah, I like that idea. Okay, Fabi brings the rook d2, and maybe this whole exchange sack is not as sexy as I thought, but it is. Okay, I think that white is still in control. Even if I can't just get c6, I have rook f3, rook g3. It feels like this is going to be a position that under time pressure, Robert, black has a very hard time balancing, protecting the king on h7 and dealing with the passed pawns.
Yeah, this looks really bad. I really thought he should have went b6 and a5, but perhaps it was just losing and it didn't matter anyway. It's just, the material doesn't mean as much here. Although, wait, what if I go rook e? No,
did Levon just brush his shoulder off again? Brush his shoulder off. He's probably a Jay-Z fan. We'll ask him that, but I bet.
He loves rap, so. Okay, Fabi down to 30 seconds left. So Levon up 2 minutes on the clock with a beautiful attack, a beautiful pawn storm on the queen side. I don't even know what to do here as black. You better hope that you go f4 and somehow sack on h3 and it works out, because I don't see anything else.
We're going to talk a little bit at the break, of course, about everything we've seen so far. As soon as this game is over, there will be a couple minutes of Robert and I breaking down what we've seen as we prepare for the 3-minute portion of today's match. So don't go anywhere. It's only just beginning, because our stats, not to this degree, Robert, but our stats sort of said that Levon was favored in 5-minute, but that Fabiano was the better 3-minute player. So
how does that make sense?
It makes sense based on their previous performances in said time controls.
Gotcha.
Don't argue. You know that there are lies and then there are statistics. Learn how to read into statistics.
Oh, you're gonna come insult me? I don't like that. That's
no,
mean.
I wasn't insulting you. That was love. It was creative criticism. Isn't queen takes b7?
They say the truth hurts.
Queen takes b7, queen to g7. I think Fabiano has problems here. Okay, you can play bishop g7. The idea, everybody, is that would completely prevent king h7. Now you give discovered check, and you've taken away the g5 escape square. But Levon decides, I don't need to take it away. I'll just chase him to g5. Bishop to c1 is coming, and if f4, rook d5, I think it's lights out.
Yep, rook d5 ends the game on the spot here.
Well, if king h4, where's the mate? I just haven't seen it yet. Just bishop takes f4, maybe? Okay, yeah, rook d5, king h4, bishop takes f4. Oh, he doesn't go for that. I think that was more accurate. Okay.
So
I think rook d5, bishop f4 was game over. So Levon maybe made himself give himself a little more work to do now. Okay, he's trying to bring the queen around.
Yeah, bring the queen back to f3 and win the f pawn. So that's actually a very smart and safe decision there. Instead of going for anything crazy like h4 check, which probably was winning, but doing something like this. Ooh, d7.
Nice. Just very, very straightforward. Fabiano immediately just gets up, doesn't really want any part of sitting in his chair anymore, given that we are currently looking at, what are we looking at? We're looking at a 4 friggin' game lead heading into 3-minute. Robert, we're going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back to discuss and preview the 3-minute portion. Don't go anywhere, everybody. Well, as we said, the stats predicted a slightly stronger performance for Levon Aronian in the 5-minute portion, but if you had asked anybody whether either player would have a 4-game lead heading into the 3-minute portion, I think the answer would have been no, and rightfully so. As we take a look at the current trajectory of this match, it's all Levon Aronian. So I'm going to put the pressure on you, Robert, and say, you're in St. Louis with the World Championship challenger. You're in his camp. What advice are you giving him right now? How are you helping him shake off the last portion and just focus on what's ahead?
Well, you just say play more quickly, because you've been getting yourself in time trouble and spoiling good positions. And it's a matter of conversion. And there's been an element of seems like being uncertainty, not knowing when to push your pawns and to actually just spring open the position, because he's been getting plenty of good positions, Fabiano has. And stop playing openings like the French and Benoni. Those are my main pieces of advice. You cannot play that against someone of Levon Aronian's prowess. He loves space. He's a very creative player, but you're making it way too easy for him if you're giving him all the benefits of the position and then trying to make magic happen out of thin air.
Well, and given that we had Levon as a favorite heading into this match, here you can see that right now we feel like Fabiano really has his work cut out for him, given what we've seen under time pressure, and that in bullet that's only going to get worse. But okay, what's up ahead is the players getting set, and they have retaken their seats, or at least one of them has. We will be starting the 3-minute portion momentarily. You heard the advice from Coach Hess. Stop playing bad openings, right? Forget the past and stop playing bad openings. Focus on what's ahead of you, right?
Yep.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Time for the games to begin. And they have. Here we go. Go Celtics.
Danny, I can't do a commentary with you anymore if you're going to be rooting for the Celtics. I'm sorry.
You know, I think most people in New York root for the Celtics at this point. Should we put you on the therapist chair? You want to get it out, how you feel about the Knicks?
It's patently false that New Yorkers would never root for the Celtics. Get out of here.
All right. Well,
I don't know about you fair weather fans out in Arizona.
Oh, calling out the fair weather fans. That's because it's nice outside. So you're right, we're fair weather fans because we got bleep to do when our teams are bad.
You have like a college basketball team in the NBA, and so out there at Phoenix, I don't know what to say about y'all.
Fabi has leaned into a relaxed pose with only his hair visible, as we can say. One day maybe he considers growing cornrows or rolling himself some cornrows, but
that would be something. Hey, look at Fabi playing. I see a knight on f4, which indicates to me that he played e3, knight e2. And these positions quite solid for both sides. White tries to get this Carlsbad structure, right? Look at the queen side. You have the 4-on-3 in Black's favor, but the pawn minority attack and the Carlsbad structure is very commonplace. Now, bishop d6 from Black is always an option, keeping an eye on the e3 square. There it goes, preventing e4. And it looks like Fabi just sat up in his chair as I said that. And so right now, looking like Black is a very pleasant position. f4, not a move you want to play, considering the setup you have with the pawn f3. You want to play e4, but now that the bishop and the queen lined up in the h2 pawn, the position definitely is favoring Black here. I hate, actually, now knight e5 might get that rook into some trouble there. The rook may have overstayed
his welcome
on the e-file, because after knight e5, f6, I'm just going to play bishop d3 and sacrifice the two pieces for the rook.
Yeah, with a very, very strong potential attack on the f-file. Something like this, and f takes e5 should be compensation for White to have attacking chances, even though Black has two pieces for the rook. Yep, and we're going to see exactly that. So look at you predicting the plan. Sometimes
Levon's going to play e takes f4. That's why he's thinking.
Throwing it right back at you, sacking the exchange. If Black takes f4, White has to move the bishop, and then Black might even take again on e3 with threats on h2. Although at this point it's hard to tell whose king is going to be more weak if that type of position occurs, Robert, with the f-file being open and potential light square meetings on h7.
Whoa.
In fact, on that note, I think that's why he takes on d4. He wants no part of opening up this rook on f1, keeping that pawn on f4. I really liked
e takes f4, playing f3 afterwards, just to continue breaking open the position, but probably I was missing something. So, I don't see full compensation here. I think that Black has some initiative, especially because you have the 4-on-2 now on the queen side.
Yep.
But White has two bishops, open space to work with. I would consider bishop d4, just played, of course, right? Putting your bishop on a better diagonal.
Yep. And
now you can even play bishop e5. There it goes. You can't take me because if I take with the pawn, I have the f-file, you're pinned. I can play queen d4 next. I'm firmly controlling all of the dark squares in the position. This is amazing for White.
Yeah, and up the exchange, the other rook comes to e1. We've already got open files for the rooks to flex their muscles. That's what you need if you have a rook versus a minor piece. I agree. White is in complete control here. And for those asking why Fabiano is not in complete control of his webcam, we do our best to let them know. Maybe one of his grandmaster friends there on site is listening to our show and can nudge him. But when these guys are focused, we don't want to bother them, but they do tend to eventually realize that they're not on camera.
Yep. So wait, I turned away to eat a bite of an energy bar. All of a sudden I see a pawn on f5.
Yeah,
Black smartly played a5.
Yeah, I think this is fine. White just maintaining the bind. Still have the battery here. Now maybe you're going to play b5 in some positions to undermine the d-pawn. But yeah, okay, rook e1. White sits tight. b5 shots are in the air. I might even play b5 here. If b5 takes, I take f6 and then gobble d5 with check.
Well, your e1, watch out for e1. Right, if you ever move your bishop away
from... b5 takes f6, you're really going to take e1 there?
Yes.
I guess you are. I was kidding. Back rank problems, and Fabiano agrees with you and decides to defend e1. My bad. I was actually just testing you. You barely passed. F+.
I haven't been to college in a few years, but I can still take a test every now and then.
Yep. Okay, I still like b5 at some point, though, for Fabi. And we'd like him to get his first win in a long time here. has not won since the first game of the match. For those of you just joining us, Caruana jumped out to a lead, but it has been all Armenia ever since.
Yeah, knight g4. Now you're going for a kingside initiative. The pawn on b4 is very weak.
Yep. Take and shake and bake. b5.
I'm starting to like black's chances more and more. I mean, without the pieces on the board.
Yeah, well, and now you can't play b5 because if trades, even rook b1 fails to b4. The bishop on f8 defends. So he's going to prepare b5. But I agree. Is b5 met by c5 and suddenly black has two passers?
b5, c5.
Yeah, Fabiano has let pressure slip. He does have a time edge, but I feel like we're a bit of a broken record saying lack of execution in better positions right now, and then eventual time pressure is doing Fabiano in.
He still has a good position, but clearly black is the one been making progress in recent moves. Play h3 here. Knight e5 I'd play for black, saying, okay, there it goes. If you take on e5, the bishop and pawn is good against the rook. Now knight came to c4. That's it. So knight a3, put that knight on b5. Wait, the rook, he's hung up. What?
Oh my gosh. Fabiano just leaned back, shook his head, very frustrated. Not even on camera right now. Just absolutely upset. And we see Levon hasn't moved a muscle in quite some time. No need to with a 5-game lead. Fabiano leaning back in. He does exist. The hair exists anyway. The hair is real, man.
He disappeared. I mean, I just lost sight of him for a little while there.
At this point, we might need an emote of just Fabiano's forehead and fro. What do you think? That might get more people spamming his emote if we get the forehead and fro going.
Okay, what's going on here? This looks terrible for black. Wait, isn't knight f5? You can't stop knight f5. Danny?
Yeah?
I really don't like this position.
I think that Fabiano is on a bit of a tilt right now.
Bishop g5, isn't this just winning the d5? Yeah, this is...
He's just in big trouble. He's just not in the best of shape right now. So with still some time left in the match, there's obviously time to potentially recover. But right now, our pre-match prediction is looking more right than we ever could have predicted, given the trajectory of this match. Despite the only being a 68% favorite right now, Levon is really in control.
Yeah, this is just brutal. Now white's up a clean pawn, has a nice bishop. Okay, go rook d7, try to go rook d8, and hope that you can somehow survive here. You do get some counterplay now on the d3 pawn. So I don't know if I like what just happened for white, considering how great the position was. Because now, okay, you can't take on f3 because take on f3, taking on d3, there's a rook e8 check back rank problem where bishop e4 check would have followed suit as well. So that was a nice little tactical shot possible for Aronian. And here, if you trade queens, well, now the d3 pawn is better protected than it was before. So
yeah, and it's a clean pawn. I mean, I agree with you. I feel like white potentially had more of an advantage there out of the middle game transition to the end game, but he's up a clean pawn. He'll double rooks on the e-file and kind of grind this one home. It's a tough one to beat Fabiano here.
And look at the rating situation. Levon about to get to 3,000.
Yeah. Hikaru Nakamura, here he comes.
What is Hikaru's rating?
Hikaru's blitz rating, I don't know. Somebody will bring us those stats here in just a moment, but I would say that Hikaru's rating is probably over 3,100 if I had to guess.
Wow.
If I had to guess.
That's pretty high. I don't even know if I can count that high.
Yeah. I stopped counting that high in middle school. So
So let's see. What can black do to survive? And these positions are very instructive, I feel like, because as white, you're up a pawn, you have the bishop, you know that you're better, but converting this can be quite difficult. So now I would take on a4, play rook to d7.
Rook a to d7. Okay, he plays a5, but the risk now is if this bishop establishes itself on b5, it guards both a4 and d3. Yeah,
Wait, but you can't go to b5. Rook c7, you go bishop b5, knight d5. So rook
Oh, I
c7.
missed that. Rook c7, yeah. So Levon likes my positional idea, but just like me, he blunders in calculating. I told you, never go full Danny. Yeah, but the reason we said that, everybody, though, playing these types of endgames, as Robert said, finding a long-term goal despite the extra pawn, it's going to be work for white. So when you have ideas like where to put your pieces, if you can put your pieces on the right squares that protect the weaknesses, it allows you to focus on improving the position. But here, bishop c6 turned out to be a tactical blunder, and black has gained some critical time to have a more active king.
So rook b1 is possible here because after knight a4, there's always rook b7 check. So I would play rook b1 and aim to go to the b5 square. You have to essentially admit that you're going to lose your a pawn or temporarily sacrifice it.
In order to get this play here, yeah.
Because you can't just let the position sit. How is white going to make progress? If you don't do anything and you keep attached to your a4 pawn, then black will just sit as well. Rook d6.
I was going to say black is doing more than sitting with rook d6 because there was a threat of rook f6, but Fabiano decides he doesn't like it. Plays rook b8.
So now if rook b1, knight takes a4, maybe rook back to a1 is possible. That's something that you can always consider as something like that. But he's playing on the king side now. Okay, so bishop d5 just to hit the f7 pawn. Strong.
I think he's smartly sort of playing tickle here. He's just up a pawn, knows maybe he didn't have the best technique. Clearly, whenever you play a move like bishop c6 and back up, as we saw earlier. But
yeah,
okay.
But look at that. He made a new weakness, and he's going to infiltrate via e6 or e7, depending on where. You can't defend the entire e file. With the pawn f7, you could go king d6. The rook could not find a place to land on.
Yeah.
Now, by playing f6, the rook will come to e6. If you play rook b6, I move my rook to e7 or e8.
Come around and poke at these pawns. And again, if black loses sight of any sort of blockade, at some point, let's not forget, we have an extra d pawn on d3, and white will just play d4 and create a passer. Passers, not to be confused with potzers. I think d4 now is actually already in the air, although you don't want to allow takes, and rook b4, forking the two pawns, everybody. So Levon's still just kind of sitting tight. Now threats of rook e7 and to h7 are in the air because h6 is a permanent weakness. So here, Robert, is it time for something like... Okay, tell everybody how you would evaluate the rooks coming off the board here.
So if I saw the rooks coming off the board, I would point out that what you just mentioned, there's a pawn on h6 that needs to be captured because I have a pawn on h5 cementing it in its place. And this looks like a blunder from Levon, but the king on d6 actually hits the bishop on d5.
Is it a blunder? You can play rook h7.
Exactly, rook h7. So it looks like you're losing a piece, but your rook slides away and you're in full safety. But now rook f8, the question may come, do I want to trade rooks? The answer is no, you do not.
Yeah.
And the reason why you don't is because look at the pawns for black. They're on the dark squares.
Yeah.
That means a king can slide in, but the bishop can never attack those pawns.
Yep.
So if I trade these rooks and then try to make progress...
No, you don't have to, I guess. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you keep these rooks on as long as possible because if you do trade, then you're going to have a very difficult time actually attacking pawns.
Yep.
Your own extra pawn is this d pawn, but my king is in time to blockade it.
Yep.
And that's a very bad thing about having a bishop in the endgame is that you cannot force a king. A light square bishop cannot force a king off a dark square.
Yep.
So
you answered exactly what I was hoping for. Some teaching moments by Bobby Hess, everybody. Where's the jingle? In evaluating what pieces you may or may not to come off the board, you have to think about long-term goals. And as Robert pointed out, white doesn't want an endgame where he can't target a whole bunch of pawns with the light square bishop. But with the rooks on the board, he is targeting those pawns. He finds a way to win another. And not only is he winning another pawn, he may win another game. Shout out to our last Twitch Prime sub. Thank you so much. Anybody's got Twitch Prime laying around, just click the sub button. It's free to you.
So why is he just... What's
I
he
don't know.
doing?
He's just playing tickle. Poking and prodding.
Rook g5.
Poking and prodding. Here comes rook a6.
Did he just win a piece? Yes, he did.
Oh, that's a knight. And with it, that's the game. Fabiano, on tilt, needs to pull himself together. He knows it. The fans know it. Our subs know it. Thanks for the Twitch Prime subs coming in. They be rolling in. Robert, we have a 6-game lead for Aronian.
Yeah, it's become very one-sided. Fabiano is now switching it up from his London system into this Reti opening, right? Play c4. He's going to try to gain space in the center. But Levon classical player he is. He's played this from the white side. He knows how to play from black. Look at this move, Rook G1. I really like that decision because now it doesn't matter that you're playing well and losing if you are playing well, which he hasn't been. But you just have to win games.
Yeah, you have to win games.
And I hope my students are not watching me and hearing me say that because I always tell them, which is true, I much prefer you make good moves over good results. I don't want you to play a bad game and win. I want you to play as well as possible at every turn. And right now, Fabiano just needs wins. He's on 8-2. I mean, this is incredibly lopsided.
Well, if your students ever get in an SCC match, we'll give them permission to do that too. So I didn't know people actually paid you to talk about chess. You've been doing this for free for us for years.
You clever man. Lying to the public.
LOL. Yeah, Robert Hess is a free chess commentary for hire. Reach out to him.
Nice lies.
Okay, so the knight comes to e4. Here comes g4. But jokes aside, I agree with what you've told your students, but I also agree with Fabi's decision, just like you do. And I think we gotta be all in. Maybe queen c3 to defend d4. I don't think you can just sack the d pawn. Yeah, he does it. And now again, look for g4. Look for this to be an exciting game. Nonetheless, regardless of the match score. Fabi's up 30 seconds and going for the attack.
Oh, now the queens are up, but I don't like what just has happened here from White's point of view. I thought you could have gotten a little more. By trading the queens on a5, I thought that might have been premature. You could have played them like d5 first to hit that knight that was on c6 because the knight on e4 protected the queen. So now White's pieces are a little bit awkward. You have this knight on e4, again, a good-looking piece, but at some point a rook will come to e8 and kick it. I think you should play a move like knight to d4 for White, get that second knight into the game. But Black has control of the f4 square. The pawn on g4 is a little bit overextended. So I really like how this game has progressed for Levon, despite the fact that his knights are a little bit awkward for the time being.
And time suggests it too. Fabiano takes his first real think of the game, maybe not thrilled with how he transitioned either, decides his best chance is to push the d pawn, maybe bring it into d7, and go for some magic there.
Yeah. So let's see. D7, the point is let's just take on D7 and then take on E4. So that knight on E4 is hanging, which means D7 does not win a piece for White. But what else can you do? Because move like knight C3, which he ends up playing bishop D7. I think Black is consolidating, coordinating, and going to scoop up this D6 pawn.
Okay, maybe White has king F1 and bishop B5 before you fully coordinate. Obviously, the bishop there isn't ideally placed. Black can play for a6 and b5 to kick it out at some point, but you do have some help for the d pawn. Okay, knight d4 though, but now the d pawn is falling. Maybe knight b5, a6, knight c7 is his idea.
Well, knight b5, you always have bishop c4 stuff as well because the bishop on e2 is pinned.
Yep.
And now just rook takes d6 as a free pawn, right?
Levon wants more than the pawn. He prevents rook e3 because of knight g2 fork.
So what about bishop b5 now, your idea?
Discover checks don't work because, although bishop d7 discover check works.
Yeah, you'll put bishop d7, I'll just my king over to f1, and at least I get to keep my d pawn.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes for it. Agreed, town. Population you and Fabi. We may still see bishop d7 anyway, and not necessarily to trade on b5, but to play a6. Try to make the bishop make a decision. At some point, I like this approach from Levon. He's just sitting tight a little bit, going to make sure he can surround the d6 pawn.
So knight f5 now, maybe?
Knight f5. I have my knight from a5 at some point coming back into c4 to help out, though not right away. If knight f5, knight c4, I think rook d4 wins a piece.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And if you go G6 is Black, I'll throw my knight on E7 with check, put my rook on F3, and kick your knight from the F4 square because it's really bothering me there.
That's would work, but there's rook takes E7 in some of those lines because of mate on D1.
Rook E3, clever.
Rook E3.
So rook E to D8, just go after the D6 pawn.
Yeah. Knight E7 and knight E4 doesn't work again because of rook takes E7. Everybody, watch out for mates.
Wait, but the knight protects the D1 rook. Oh, knight E4, you're saying. You're setting me up here. I was like, wait, my knight's protecting my rook. And then
I've been setting you up this whole time, baby.
Yeah, then why am I still single?
Loves it. Yep. You're single by choice. We're going to talk about that off air, right now.
Okay, we'll talk about it off air.
King G7. Okay, here comes G5. G5. Fix the pawns. No, he wants rook E4. If
knight E6.
Maybe just plays F4.
F4.
Rook A4, going to kick the knight, and if knight C6, you happily trade and gobble A6. So Fabiano has worked his way back into the game here, even being down on time here under a minute. I'm liking it.
Yeah, this is looking really nice now for what? Knight E4.
Yeah, knight E4 feels really good.
Because F5 is not possible with a knight on E7 protecting the square. Look at knight E4, rook takes E7, pawn takes E7. Then I have the king E2 at the end once you take on D1 with check.
And there's no way to stop queen, everybody.
So I think he might be missing. What? What?
Yeah, why not knight E4? Why is he giving the D6 pawn?
That was just a blunder. I wonder if he forgot that you can't take on E7 there. He's just overlooking simple tactics.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point, given that he's really struggling, but that just seems like such an obvious oversight. I mean, I saw that even before you gave the line. It's, hey.
This is terrible. I mean, Fabiano's playing extremely poorly right now. And credit to Levon, because Levon has been playing very well.
Levon's played extremely well, and combine that with, right now, what has definitely been a tough day for Fabiano. And that's why we have a 6-game lead. Is
there blundering of a piece here? Knight C6. Play A5 and A3. Is that going to work out?
He sacks the exchange, tries to rush the pawn. Looks like, okay, so Levon plays one of his first blunders of the match right there. People have already clipped your "Why am I still single" line, just so you know.
Well, I had to say it. It just came to mind.
Okay, probably best play is a draw now because the A pawn's going to fall. 2 knights against the rook. Okay, I'll take that back. The 2 knights are really much more dangerous than maybe people first think, because even with all the pawns being equal, the knights really thrive in this type of position where everything's on one side of the board. They're going to maneuver, they're going to poke, they're going to prod, and everyone hates forks. No one likes forking under time pressure.
Nope. Well, never mind.
Are you forking with me right now? Don't do it.
I had so many thoughts. I know. Black is winning this.
I love putting thoughts into your head, knowing that you can't say most of them. One of my favorite things to do to you.
Why didn't you put his king to E5? So Black should win this game.
Yeah, at this point, there's too many weaknesses in all seriousness, and the knights it's only a matter of time before the knight from F4 relocates to E5, and F3 is going to fall.
Knight D3 was probably winning right there.
I don't know why Levon's waited so long to play knight G6, knight E5. Feels good, man. Go for knight G6, knight E5. Okay, king D2 or king here. After rook A3, you're going to block with knight D3. This is just painful. Painful to be in Fabiano's shoes right now. He blunders the rook. And with it, another one bites the dust. Levon is in complete control of this match with only 35 minutes to go in the 3-minute. So we're about halfway through the match right now as far as total games played. We're a little more than halfway through the match as far as time on the clock, but the average games played per time control, this is about the halfway mark. So the tides must turn now, Frodo.
Well, you made a Queen reference, and I was wondering if you're as excited for the movie coming out as I am. But
I don't know. Not all of us see 12 movies a week like you.
Wow. Okay. Way to just call me out like crazy today.
Hey, we're here to have fun. And you tell everybody how proud you are to see so many movies a week. Tell them about your movie pass.
I love having movie pass. We'll talk about that another time. Back to the chess.
Back to the chess. Levon Aronian in control right now.
I kind of feel bad for Fabi at this point. 9-2. That was not expected. And what is it? 4 straight wins for Levon now? Yeah, he was at 5-2. Now it's 9-2. So this position right now is also very nice for White. No weaknesses to speak of.
Very
Black
straightforward chess.
Because White can just continue maneuvering. At some point, you can consider, as White, trying to launch a king-side attack. It is difficult because, there's no pieces for White on that side of the board.
Not a lot of minors, but you're right. In this structure, because it's so straightforward, at some point you can use the e-file for a rook lift. Black played f6 there to overprotect e5, preventing the knight from using the square, but But the more those pawns push, even though there's a lot of smoke right now, when it clears out, look for e6 to be a weakness for black, and that might be a real problem if white plays f3 here. Yeah, I like f3 a lot, actually. I feel like Fabiano he's in that aggressive mode, Robert, where he's overextending. He played rook g1 last time as white. He wants this attack, but essentially this is a structure that greatly favors white because the e6 pawn is weak. These pawns are overextended, and black has done nothing to do a minority attack, which is what you normally want here with b5 and a5, right?
Yep. And I like that decision by Fabi to go knight d6 to c4 because he's trying to close down the queen side and say, my pawn on c4 takes care of your pawn on b2. Since the pawn's on a3, if that pawn were on a2, you could play b3 and chisel up the structure.
But even so, I mean, yeah, I agree. It simplifies the queen side problems, but you're just getting into a position where, look at Levon. I mean, the e6 pawn is weak. The black king is potentially open here. I don't know if we're playing anything that does it, like queen h7. I guess not yet, but I agree with you, but I just feel like white is playing for 2 results already in this position.
Yeah, I like your move queen h7, Danny, because you need to make threats in the position. Your queen can go from h5 to g4, put more pressure on the e6 pawn. The thing is, it's actually hard to make progress, though, for white, unless you play a move like g3, which perhaps now...
What about h4 here?
H4 as well is an option,
he plays queen e2 first, but I'm looking at this idea to undermine the protection of the f-pawn.
I like g3 more because if you play h4, I'm going to go rook h8 at some point, and you might regret opening the file. He went g3.
He agrees with you. Another good reason why your move is better, Robert, is this leaves these g-pawns doubled and isolated, right? Because you got rid of the f-pawn, so I agree. Yeah, g3 was nice, and now white might even play bishop e5.
Yeah, there are a couple options here. You can play f4 just to open up more lines and say that despite getting rid of those ugly double pawns, you're keeping black stuck. And by playing f4, you open up the f-file for your rook, and you could take with f4, g4, rook takes f4, maybe swing your other rook to the f-file, and say that I'm just going to continue piling up pressure here. And he starts with rook g4. I think black should try rook h8 because you need to do something active. And here f4 again speaks to me, but I'm not sure.
I saw some comments asking for cameras from the players, but as we can see, they've been off the webcam as their intensity picks up and frustrations mount for the American. He's sort of been stuck to his fro view. We'll call this the fro view. So that's why we haven't been showing too much of them on camera. The H file's open, Robert. The idea you said is potentially going to be there, though.
Yeah, I think he could have also played, with the H file being open like this, rook H5 to F5, just to come to the defense of your position.
Yeah.
But I already like this position more for black than I did earlier. White should still be slightly better. The bishop on F4 always guards H2, so you're not really too worried about an attack on the king side quite yet.
Yeah.
But now rook F5, bring your other rook to F7, you may compete for that F file.
I agree. Yeah, no, this is better than I felt the position was headed towards. Shout out to our last 2 subs, MGT3. Thank you for the tier 1 sub. Thank you for our last prime sub. Appreciate the support.
And actually, Danny, also in an end game, like let's say we trade all the heavy pieces off. Look at that queenside pawn structure.
No, these are a bunch of pawns stuck on dark squares, and this bishop starts licking his lips. Fabiano this could be a huge win if he turned this around, because this is one that I was calling earlier that Levon was already playing for 2 results. So if I'm proven wrong about that, I'd be happy, because it means we have a closer match. A5 and B4, perhaps?
You know, the B4 will come at some point, but in certain endgames, I actually liked not having my pawn on A5 because my king could slip through B6 to A5 to A4.
Yeah, very nice foresight.
And again, now that you do this, you have to put your pawn at b4, but offering some of these trades, for example, a takes b4, and now
rook a8, rook a1.
You don't have the access that you had a moment ago. And that's
a great point, Robert. Rushing. Yeah, that was a very instructive point for those who are paying attention and trying to learn during these shows by Robert, thinking of that long-term plan of bringing the king around to the pawn structure here. Fabiano.
If you look at the position now, all of a sudden white's pieces have broken free a bit. And so actually,
you could take c3 here.
That'd be a funny blunder if you overtake c4. My king forks your rooks.
Yeah, that would have been sweet. Let's look at that on the analysis board. Shout out to Smarter Chess for gifting that last sub. Thank you. That's not something you see every day. Not the king moving like a knight, but the king forking the rook. So, okay, didn't happen. Levon does not blunder.
He could have taken the e6 pawn. That was hanging.
E6, king d5, rook back to e3. I agree with you.
I think the point was he was worried about king b5, But I'm worried about the black king getting checkmated after rook a8, for example, and just coming over to or rook a6, and then So I don't know. I
18
think
seconds, perhaps Levon just didn't have the time to calculate it.
Yeah. Wait, if bishop takes d4? Whoa, so he
yeah,
lost
that
the
was a
pawn
tactic.
anyway.
He's going to have to take on c3. Don't get mated. You can guard a5. I was going to say king a4 is fine because you can block the mate on the a file with the rook on f5. So bishop c3 is, and Fabiano is actually feeling very confident. Levon goes into the think tank here.
Yeah, he's turned the tables with Levon spending all of his time left.
I said Fabiano's feeling confident because for a brief glimpse, I actually saw Fabiano's glasses and said, hey, there's that guy. He might get his first win in a very long time.
Okay, can he actually win this? So, like, you just keep going king b5, rook b8 check, rook back to c8. How do you...
Okay, he plays rook b4, and now here comes king b3. Back the bishop up.
Rook f6.
Push him, baby.
Rook f6, pin that bishop.
Rook f6, pin the bishop, I agree. Fabiano, move, right?
Yeah, because if you move your rook from b4, and then rook a3 check comes, you lose the c-pawn.
Move, Grandmaster, move.
He found it.
He found it. Now you can move the bishop. Or rook a4. Rook a4 goes for mating nets.
Why do you give the check? Don't give that check. But play rook... What? Why is he giving up the c-pawn?
He has some ideas of checking this king.
Rook g4 check. So why did the king go...
And then rook f5 check? But rook f6 saves the rook. Now he can take d6. But look at the corner. He doesn't have the right color bishop.
The king can't get back.
The king can't get back. He's going to win the h-pawn and queen with the g-pawn. So he does win. Levon knows it and throws in the towel. Caruana gets his first win in more than 90 minutes, Robert.
And I'm giving a shout-out to Miran Sher for this opening choice here. A little bit of the Vienna hybrid. I grew up with Miran Sher, always my coach, and Miran taught Fabiano for several years. And this throws me back to my childhood. Yep. And I guess back to Fabi's as well. But here, black is employing a very solid setup. If you go bishop e6, white can always swing the queen to d3 or play b3 and just say, I'm going to try to use this open d file to pressure the d6 pawn. But black actually does quite well in these lines. There's no rush from black's point of view. You can get to opposite colored bishops if you play a3.
Yep.
And you take on c3. So you can also play bishop c5 right away for black. You don't have to necessarily trade. But white eventually would like to play for f4 and try to open the position up.
Well, I appreciate how well you know this structure because certainly Miran Sher being a coach that both you and Fabiano had at some point in your careers gives you that thing in common. Okay, bishop g5. Fabiano, after winning that last game, immediately sat up, Robert, and shows us that he does live. But okay, we'll see if Fabiano can use his childhood chess coach and childhood chess friends energy here with Robert Hess. We're going to see if some of you know how to use Photoshop. Actually, we just had our first idea for a Speed Chess Championship contest in a while. You can just tweet at me, text me, call me. Actually, only tweet at me, everybody. Use the hashtag SpeedChess and use Photoshop to throw something funny on top of Fabiano Caruana's afro. We can see the live game there to our left. Don't worry, you're not missing any action. We're going to give away a one-year diamond membership for the best Photoshop of Fabiano Caruana's fro. Forehead and fro Photoshop contest. There you go.
I like it. Got
to use the hashtag SpeedChess for a one-year diamond membership. Give us some Photoshop of Fabiano Caruana's fro. You can include his face or just the forehead and fro. Your call. Whatever you think is the most fun.
I think his hair's been growing, honestly, throughout the match.
Yeah. That hashtag speed chess is being used, although not always for the right reasons. You know what they say, great power, great responsibility.
Very true. And here, white is actually gaining in this position, because if you take on f4 and I take with my bishop on f4, at some point I'll try to play c5. Black is a bit passive here. And so, coming up with an exact strategy is not easy. Okay, just play queen f3 maybe now. I don't care if you take it.
You don't care if I take it? I want to save that bishop for potential dark square things.
But I felt like I just have more space. So even if you take my bishop on f4, it went bishop e3. Feels a little slow, but perhaps it's also good. Yeah, the bishop on d4, what's it attacking?
Huh. I don't know.
So h4, I guess. That might answer the question. So not h4. I liked h4. Yeah, this is looking more and more into a drawish territory if he took on f8. So he plays rook e1, keeping his options open. He's a bit more flexible with the additional space. If black ever plays c5, you do kick the bishop off of this long diagonal, but you also weaken your d6 pawn. And I just have to give a shout out to my good friend Artak Manukyan, because I did just receive a message from him. And as we know, he was the manager behind the Pro Chess League winning team, the Armenian Eagles. Also, isn't a pawn hanging? Knight takes b5?
Yeah, it is hanging because if queen takes, everybody e6 falls. So unless Levon has something with queen d5, maybe forking, right?
Yeah,
don't go forking d5 after midnight, though. Yeah, Artak just sent me a message on Twitter, on Twitch, too. What's up, Artak?
Well, now I don't feel as special. So thank you.
Well, he's rooting for Armenia, clearly here to support his boy Levon. And
Danny, I'm confused. Do you think Fabi's just thinking about taking on b5 and if there's anything black?
I think there was queen d5, like I said at the end of the line.
No, but then queen e3.
Maybe knight f4, hitting g2, overwhelming.
Oh, then rook e4, and I'm hanging on by a thread.
Don't talk dirty to me. Queen d5, queen e3, knight f4, rook e4. I can take g2 and play rook e8, maybe.
And then my king runs to f3, maybe.
Queen f5, h3's falling.
Too much to calculate. Let's go back to the game.
Yep. We have an analysis board for that reason.
No,
and so,
I know. You're right, and I didn't want to say it.
I know. Hey, it's painful. I'm as shocked as you are. Just like all the Fabiano fans are shocked about the performance, but Effie is still using that Fabi let's go emote. Okay. Well, right now the truth is this is really tough. He's now under a minute. Levon has defended so far against the Bobby Hess Miron Shear special. But maybe White has h4 and h5 coming. I kind of like that. Let's do it. Let's go.
Robert Hess is the same voice as Steve Kerr. I'll take it as a compliment. It's a voice of reason, a voice of wisdom.
A voice of reason, a voice of wisdom, an NBA championship voice.
Ooh, rook e7.
Rook f7. Rook f7.
Take it.
Y'all got nothing. Draw.
No, take that rook and go for the a pawn.
Take that rook and then go for the a pawn. Okay, but I think black is going to take with the king, and then c2 would have fallen, perhaps. I mean,
you're not wrong. Once again, you're not wrong.
Hey, we all make mistakes, Robert.
I'm listening to you.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
I don't want this.
Oh, all right. Well, Fabiano has not lost 2 games in a row. I feel like we're like the Cleveland Indians in the movie Major League. Fabiano has not lost 2 games in a row. That's a good sign. Just a bit outside.
Well, Danny, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How much do you think he has to cut the deficit to have a chance going to the bullet? To 4 games?
I think it has to be within 4 games, and because the predictive analysis that Smarter Chess does for us. You can find Smarter Chess on Twitch, Chess.com. Matt does an amazing job and actually works super hard. He's a mathematician, so he knows what he's doing. The analysis says that Levon is better under time pressure and time scrambles and better in bullet. So, he was favored even before this big lead, but I think if it's within 4 games, anything can happen because stats are made to be wrong.
Is that why they're made? No,
they really are, actually. No, I know you're saying rules were made to be broken, Danny. You're stealing pop culture references, but no, stats are made to be wrong. There you go.
I like it.
Yep.
Well, in this position, you know what's wrong is this bishop on e4, because if I go bishop d7, you have to go. Oh, I guess you don't have to do anything. You have the d5 square.
Knight f4 coming into d5. Me likey. g2.
What? Fianchettoing the knight.
Fianchetto the knight wants to play bishop f4 perhaps and just take away one of black's better minor pieces.
Yeah, you should play rook e8 for black, or try to put your knight on e5 itself.
I think white will play for bishop f4, maybe play a3, queen a3 just to stop tactics, put the queen on d2, and then fight like heck over the e file. BJH wants to know if Smarter Chess can do odds on Magnus Carlsen playing a rook down versus Lawrence Trent. LOL. I would put Magnus's odds at over 70% against Trent down a rook.
That match was so funny. Wait, this knight on G2 is awful.
Yeah, but here he comes. Relocation, homie.
Here
Either to F3 or F5.
So if you go F5, I'll take it and put my rook on E3. Clunk.
Ooh.
Or actually, maybe I'll take to go G6 and F5.
He goes with your idea. Maybe G6 and F5 and then rook E3 was better, but he might have missed that. But Robert, I really like your plan. The reason, everybody, is because now with Robert's rook E3, Levon can no longer close the E file with the bishop on E4. But in the game, Levon did close the E file and Fabiano did not have F5. So I think your line with G6 and F5 was better.
Yeah, I thought what happens if the bishop goes back to E4? I'm not happy about it, so I might
He's
as well
giving up the
close
pawn. He's going to play C4 if queen takes.
No, F5.
Oh, F5 just wins a piece. I'm sorry, yeah. I thought C4 and then threats of bishop C5, but F5 is more straightforward.
So if queen C3 here, I'm starting to get in that territory where I'm wondering if
maybe C4 anyway now. I would, if I'm black, I play C4 here. Forget the B7 pawn. What matters here is going to be the initiative, and Fabi agrees. Can you say 2 wins in a row? I like black. I like C4. I like the opening of the position when white's king is undermined and this E pawn is strong.
Queen D4 now. Threatening E2 and the B2 pawn.
Threatening B2 and E2. I love it. I love when you talk about pawns.
Wait, can you take on B7? Somehow I think you could take on B7 because they're back rank mating attempts.
It just feels so
and it's
risky.
Probably bad, but...
Yeah. Fabi leaning in, Levon leaning down. Levon leans back, brushes his shoulders off.
So what if you go bishop B4 there? Wait, is it queen H3 leading to some sort of attack? Queen H3...
G6? You got nothing, right?
G6, queen D7?
Oh my gosh, Fabiano just leaned in. He just gave the, oh crap, I missed that look.
Yeah, because queen D7 comes in full force, and all of a sudden...
Queen D7 wins a piece, everybody.
No, you've rook E6, but then you have to go to give the F7 pawn. That's terrible.
F7 is going to fall. F5 is coming in some positions. Looks like he clearly missed queen H3, but it's not over yet.
So rook F6, I guess. Just try to.
You can play rook F6 or queen F6, because even if you trade queens, the E3 pawn is still poisoned. Yeah, he goes queen F6 just to get rid of the attack, because E3 can't be taken.
But I was worried about that B7 pawn and just got captured, because when you have an open king, in which case, well, both sides sort of have an open king, but black's is a little bit more exposed. You want to keep the queens on the board. Yes, you could have traded queens try to go after the E3 pawn at some point soon, played rook to B1, but now you've gained a pawn. So white is up a pawn. Both kings are feeling a little greasy. And if I'm black, I'm going to go bishop C7 to B6 and say, well, even if you can continue trying to make progress, but I don't see how you're going to do it. And I want to keep my E3 pawn as nice and safe as possible.
Well, again, it's now with black misplaying it, it's probably best play leads to a draw kind of result, but under a minute, neither side is likely going to be playing their best chess. So, but I agree with you. Looks like missing queen H3 was a huge shot. Back in this moment here, everybody, missing queen H3 is where the game turned from Fabi pushing to maybe Levon pushing.
Although this position can turn at any moment. As black's king gets increasingly safe, and white, the king will still a little bit to worry about there, but if that queen ever leaves the D5 square, for example, it can start using the light squares. Rook D8 here, I think. Okay, with bishop C5. How are the white should put a pawn on A6, and at some point continue trying to make progress on the queen side. But I don't know how you get this rook active. The rook on E2 is very much stuck. So rook E1 now. One of my questions essentially is can I put my king on E2 and just try to blockade everything? So rook E1, try to play H5, open the H file now. I mean, Levon's doing everything correctly. I'm impressed by the way he's handling this game.
Yeah, agreed.
H5 now, for example, you need to create another weakness. And there he goes, H5. So trade on C6, play king F3. Now your rook can move freely. No, now it's improving. White's chances are definitely, I don't know about A6. Didn't seem necessary, but okay, it doesn't really matter that much. And Danny, a big reason I don't like to move A6 is you give this bishop this permanent square on B6 to sit and relax. Whereas if the bishop was on C5 and the pawn was on A5, there might have been, okay, now this is just G5. Go G5, cement that pawn. There it is. Now play rook h8. I'm trying to figure out the right way to do this. But black is tied down.
Yep.
And note, if that pawn was on a5, the bishop would not have this b6 square to just sit and relax on. And here's king f3 back.
The biggest issue, though, for white is unless you can dislodge this bishop, then white is also tied down to the e-pawn. So bishop b6, and there's going to be threats potentially at some point, rook giving itself up for the bishop, and then a7, a8.
Yeah, here just c5. Okay, he's trading the rooks off. He's going to take on e3. But, yeah, the problem is the king can't move for black. So you create another pass pawn, put f5, bishop takes, go g6, and then move your king.
Can you put the bishop on d6 and c7? Is that the only diagonal that holds the c-pawn and targets f4? Maybe?
Oh, I don't know what king f3 was. King e4.
Yeah, I like this is the best position for the bishop, at least for Fabi, sitting on the b8 h2 diagonal. But so it's not going to be enough. Yeah, f5 is just so obvious. The reason there's just pawns are too far apart. The g and c pawns prevent any sort of blockade on the dark squares, and Levon stops the bleeding after calling for another win by Fabiano. Unfortunately, he misses this really nice move, queen h3, and the Armenian remains in control.
Yep. Control is an understatement for what's going on here. Levon was very confident. I read that preview, the interviews with Mike Klein, and Levon was just saying, in his normal joking manner, that he, of course, is going to win it all. But I think that confidence really does help in these formats. I know he's 0 out of 2 in his first 2 matches against Krishuk and Nepo last year.
Yep.
But he's played the closest matches pretty much possible. He's lost both games by 2 points. And now he's showing that he's a new and improved Levon Aronian with a huge score right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're talking about a statement win, although I know all that matters is winning the match, and I don't think these guys really carry over or think too much about how one of their peers beat another one because they know what they have to do on the board. But, yeah, if you're talking about a statement win, right now Levon Aronian is doing just that. This has been super impressive.
So, Levon, it's his turn to sort of, it's a King's Indian attack sort of thing, but it has French-like position, except the bishop is on h7. So we always make fun of the French because the bishop gets locked in. Here, the bishop at least is open. And, well, knight b8 is a nice move. Go to c6, try to go into d4.
Yep.
So knight c6. Knight f3 doesn't stop it. Knight f3, I still go knight d4.
And you want that c file.
So b5 now, just play b5, a5, a4. There's
Again,
no attack for
it
white.
feels like I wonder a little bit. I know we're talking bigger picture here. The match still has plenty of time left, but right now I'm wondering if Fabiano has made some sort of conscious decision. He's not going to play his main lines. He's in World Championship prep. But something combined with him playing some dubious openings, and then you lose a few in a row, Robert. The rhythm gets away from you. And Gloria Stefan foreshadowed it. The rhythm is getting Fabiano.
So you're trying to say, he's playing a little bit of hide and seek and it's not working out for him. He's being found in the first 5 seconds.
Exactly. It's like he's trying. And again, we talked about the fact that he bounced around a little bit to start, lost this bad game in the French, but since then, still, it just feels like he's very rarely. At this point, if it isn't a conscious effort to avoid some of his best opening prep, then I worry about it more. I think it has to be some sort of effort because he's just not getting good positions out of the opening, period.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is a thing. We see that also in classical events, not just in Speed Chess Championship.
Yep.
When you're preparing for a World Championship match, you don't want to give anything away to your opponent. And that's actually probably a large reason why Magnus is playing fewer tournaments. I know he's playing in Beal, playing the Sinquefield Cup, but he declines his Grand Chess Tour invites. He's not playing in the Speed Chess Championships. Maybe he's just trying to keep everything as close to the vest as possible. So here, black is completely winning. Rook takes a2. White can just resign as, well, you're down a pawn. You're losing b3. You'll eventually lose f2 when I go bishop f5. So this is, Fabiano doesn't even look like, not only does he not look like the number 2 player in the world, he's kind of hardly looking like a grandmaster. That sounds very harsh, and I don't mean it to be like a tremendous insult. It's just that this is not his day. Everything is looking off. And the score, 10.5, 3.5, and this game in particular, that this is probably one of the worst we've seen. It doesn't look like we're watching a a very strong player play chess.
Well, and Mike Klein just told us here in the Chess.com behind-the-scenes stat room that despite winning that first game, Fabiano has not gone back to the double fianchetto, and probably for good reason, because Levon adjusted, and look what just happened. He just got crushed as white. So he won the first game with this double fianchetto opening, everybody, but probably not because of the opening, as Levon just showed. And it's now or never. It's now or never. It's either wake up or shake up. Shake it off or Taylor Swift it off. I don't know what he's got to do, but at this point, he's not looking good.
Yeah, his hair's looking good, though.
Yeah, they say at this point, Levon might be on pace to adopting him. I don't think that that's possible. Fabiano won a game a couple games ago. I'm pretty sure official adoption happens at 10 in a row, not a 10-game lead, but maybe I'm wrong. I haven't, been adopted in no kidding. I get adopted every week.
People bringing out the little baby carriages for the adoption thing. It's funny. But okay, Fabi with the black pieces now. It's kind of sad to see this be such a one-sided affair. I was very much looking forward to this match as being hopefully a close one.
Yep.
But there are many more matches in the Speed Chess Championships to come. So I guess I will have more things to look forward to. And this particular game, I think Black can play Queen D8 here. That's one of the main ideas as well, to get the queen off the D file to protect the B6 bishop and perhaps to start expanding. Now we've seen this position before, right?
Yeah, we have. We had a Lopez earlier. Shout out to our last Ape Tress C for the sub. Appreciate it. We saw this position, and it was one of the longer games where Fabiano was black. Eventually, white played B3, and Fabiano got some counterplay in the A file. But something tells me we're not going to get the same type of approach here in this one.
Levon had played B3 and then Rook AD1. Here he just went Rook AD1 immediately, and the bishop was on E6 in that other game, hitting the A2 pawn.
Yeah, no, good point. That was a big reason why white had to play B3, because A2 was under fire. Here, white did not have to waste B3 before swinging the rook over because there was no threat. And I think white is in a better spot in this game than Levon was against Fabi many games ago.
So let's see, 95 for black, but then he doesn't want to give himself a bad pawn structure, but he hands white the huge center.
Yeah.
And what does black do here? You're cramped in. You don't really have space. You play D5, I just go E5. If you play C5, as black trying to say, well, let me put pressure on your center, and then even just pawn takes C5 and E5 coming, looking good for white. So, now D5 followed by knight D4 looks inviting.
Yeah.
I see a pawn on C7,
I wonder if both E5 and D5 are moves here.
Yeah, I agree. I see a pawn on C7, though, and I say, I have a queen on C1. I'm going to make that a backward pawn, play D5.
Yeah, so D5 was the more positional approach to try to anchor in. I was wondering if E5 and opening the bishop on G6 was... Okay, obviously neither move happened. Levon opted for the... Whoa, I was about to say the much more passive knight H2, but he plays F4. Dirty girl. Look at this. Here comes F5.
He made it seem like he was entering a docile position there, but he's not peaceful. He's not quiet, and he's definitely not going to allow these pieces to stay at the status quo. In F4, it's running F5. You see that the monstrous center for white-black has really no space. Bishop C8 might be the only move here, which is just a sad one to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a bit of a shake-up, shake and bake. Convinces us knight H2 is passive. Maybe Fabi missed F4 as well, given the time he's taking on the clock. Shout out. Thank you for that sub right there. Chesser Me in the Chess TV chat says Levon is working on his tan. That's a tan light. That would be another Photoshop contest, though. That's just for fun. Purposes of Levon's dark light.
I thought he was trying to join the Blue Man group.
There you go. That too.
So knight E5, we see a sacrifice here. If you take on F7, I take with the queen on F7, I hit the B3 pawn, and then behind the bishop on D3 is this knight on G3 under attack. So this looks great for white. Knight F3, now the knight can still come to D4.
D4, B5 is falling. Your only chance in positions like this with the rooks versus the minors is quick pressure of some kind on either open files or 7th rank type of tactics, and it's just black is a far cry away from that kind of thing. So you just have to love the minors. Thank you, Karma Gamer, for that sub. Appreciate it. Queen b2, here comes knight d4. e5 first, and then knight d4, I'm assuming, no? Yep. I like e5.
Yep.
At this point, I feel like it's almost just full tilt psychology at this point. Obviously, Fabi just not having his best day. Maybe Bullet, he shakes it off and gets a few more, but at this point, hard to imagine a comeback given how well Levon is playing.
No, Levon is playing like a total monster, and I don't know if it's the Celtics jersey that he's sporting.
Yeah.
Or what's going on.
Maybe this is really all about sending a message to Kawhi Leonard that the East is not for sale.
Oh, knight d4 just taking on e6. That is Resignville.
It's over. Over, Red Rover. Send a rook right over. Oh, man. Oh, man.
I don't even know what to say at this point because
no, it's tough. It feels bad, man. Feels bad to be Fabiano. The East is not for sale, says Levon Aronian and all the Celtics fans. And apparently his fake tan as he continues to become more red by the minute. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe someone needs to turn off that light before he turns into an Oompa Loompa.
It's funny because I was just thinking the same thing.
That's so funny, but he just shout out to Celtic Frost, just gifted Moobot. Thanks for the gift, Celtic Frost. Yeah, well, Oompa Loompas are people too, as Levon would remind us. But at this point, Robert, I don't even have much to analyze, but I am going to bring you back on just to ask you again to play coach before we get to Bullet. Give us your final speech to Fabiano. Would you say, let's go get drinks? Or what's going on? How are you describing this?
I guess you're describing it as, well, we're preparing for a world championship match. We are trying not to play as much speed chess because you need to focus on your classical game. But this is a really poor showing, unfortunately, for Fabiano.
Yep.
And, I wish I had better advice, but just everything has been awful. You have Bullet left to play. It's sort of meaningless when you're down. How many points is he down? 9?
He's now down 9.
Will we even get 9 Bullet games? Like, how many Bullet games are usually played?
Somewhere between 8 and 10. Yeah,
okay.
You're right, on average, based on the previous matches we've had. Some people in the Twitch chat and Chess TV chat ask, how many games do you play? Remember, the format of the speed chess is unique in the sense that you're racing against the game clock, too. You see that clock right above Robert's head right there, right? After those 3 minutes, we will take a small break and then have Bullet Chess, where we usually enjoy what we see on the board between a couple of north of 2780 players in Bullet. So regardless of the match result, don't go anywhere. Should be a lot of fun. Yeah, I agree with you. I think at this point you remind Fabi the bigger picture. Likely he's not in any position to come back and win the match. But okay.
I mean, what are you supposed to tell a player who's down 9 points, has no shot of winning? You ask me the impossible questions. Like this, you're putting me on the spot here. I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
I'm not the eloquent coach that you want me to be. I'm not Steve Kerr. Whoever said my voice sounded like Steve Kerr's.
You're eloquent in my mind, okay? And shout out to Celtic Frost with the last sub and Snatch Pato coming in. Love that guy, Snatch.
Wow, that sounded weird.
That didn't at all. Are you talking about the Brad Pitt movie? Most underrated role of his career?
Good movie.
Great movie. Okay. But this is an easy structure for white to play. You bring the pieces to the king side with a move like knight g4. Denied access. But now the e6 pawn and the f4 square are potentially weak. So, again, we're analyzing chess here to learn, enjoying the day. Robert mentioned already briefly that there's plenty of more speed chess matches ahead. I'm just going to remind everybody, for those of you who don't know, join us in about 24 hours. Look at that top left corner. Hikaru Nakamura versus Ho Yifan will be taking place Thursday evening. It's an evening match at 5 p.m. Pacific as Yifan joins us from China. So make sure you're here on Thursday for the next big match. So,
are you talking to me? Because I feel like I have to be here for that.
Yeah,
big match.
I didn't ask you. I don't. You don't have a choice.
You tell me.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody else has a choice, at least at this point. All right. Interesting stuff with g4. What black really wants here, though, Robert, is e5, just to open up tactics on the g pawn. Maybe Levon can play it Rootaboot knew.
You called it.
Called it. E5. I like it. I love it. I want some McLovin on the light squares. Take G4 and F3 anyway? Come on. Let's call for blood. Let's go, Levon. Let's go. Only 20 seconds left in the 3-minute.
That wouldn't work out. You take on G4,
Why?
take point bishop on F5 for white, and just say, thank you for all the light squares.
So you give the piece back and deny my fork.
Isn't bishop takes B5 hanging here? Yep, found it.
You would deny me from some good forking. Darn
because
you.
queen B6 check would pick up that bishop, but then the E5 bishop is hanging. If you take on B5 right away, queen takes D5 check, and then I pick up either E5 or B5. So that was a big blunder.
This looks like it could be a good win, a much needed win for Fabiano. Who knows? Maybe we see the most epic comeback of all time with this win carrying a bit of momentum for the American into bullet, but don't hope. Don't hold out hope.
Danny, I'm just meshing with Artak Manukyan, again, the manager of the Armenia Eagles, the Pro Chess League. He's saying that he's very proud of Levon, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, Zavin Andreasen will also crush Vidit. So we have some huge Armenian loyalty by Artak Manukyan there. And in this game, this one looks all but over. And so the time is up for the 3-minute portion of this. So Levon plays bishop d4. You just take with the pawn on d4, throw a rook onto the e5 square.
It just feels
good. Other rook onto the e1 square, and just continue.
Feels good, man. Fabi hasn't had many feel-good moments today, so he needs this one.
Yeah. This is...
Just take the pawn. If bishop c6, you have rook f5 with tempo, so you don't lose f3.
Wait, does queen a5 force a trade of stuff?
Queen a5 might force queen b6, yeah. I see.
Oh, there goes the ambulance again.
Huh.
Oh, please.
Robert, where do you live again?
I live in Manhattan, in New York City.
Robert, where's your former roommate from?
You want to do this again?
Why hasn't anybody made you a "my roommate from Argentina" emote? Like maybe just an Argentina flag.
Hey, Danny, I have a question for you. Do you know my former friend named Daniel?
Oh yeah, is his last name Mereditsky?
No, I like Danya. He's Danya. There's this guy named Daniel Wrench.
Only my mother called me Daniel. Okay, I'm Danny, so I don't know who you're talking about, but all right. Anyway, here comes rook e6. Fabi's going to get this one.
Oh, I love this comment by Effie Czar. It says, Robert lives in GTA, Grand Theft Auto.
That's right.
Awesome.
He's trapped in the video game.
So that's some Black Mirror stuff. I don't know if you watched that show, but oof. And
No,
so...
You know I can't handle horror shows.
Well, it's great.
I've told you not to bring that up on camera. I get scared easily.
This is over.
I mean, Shia LaBeouf scares me, dude. Come on.
Well, Shia LaBeouf is an interesting individual. So.
Yep. Rook b7. All right, Fabi, come on. Put it away, baby.
Rook g6 check.
Rook g6 check. Don't think. Bring the other rook into e6. Let's go. Let's do it.
So he'll be down 8 points after this win. Or should we not call it too soon? I mean,
okay, rook g6, rook other e6. I was highlighting on the analysis board. I'm sorry, everybody. We know how you love those highlights. Okay, there's no use of the check. King hides on h2. At some point, white shouldn't even be in a rush to take h6. Just try to overwhelm this queen from f8, really. Even moves like queen a3 are interesting here. Followed by taking everything with check and then trade back. That's
rook
what
to f6 just wins on the spot.
Rook f6 also wins here on the spot. Picking between flavors is what you can do when you go to Baskin-Robbins. There you go. Also what you can do when you're easily winning, which Fabiano has not had many of those opportunities today, but looks like he's getting this one as we see the Levon scratches his nearly Oompa Loompa head. Fabiano trying to find the right technique. I'm actually failing to see the knockout blow too. Where's the knockout blow?
There isn't one, which is why I didn't want him to take on h6 so quickly, but this is still winning. Look how many pawns white has. So it's a queen.
Too many. That's how many.
Queen and three pawns with 2 rooks.
I was going to say, do you put the queen in a position where at some point you might even just take on f4? Take on f4 with the knight just to open up the king, because there may be some sort of checks that win a loose rook like this, but okay. Okay, nice work. Nice work. The real issue, though, is that this knight is not in play. At that point, was knight takes f4 and g5 the right way? I think knight takes f4 and g5 should be played at some point.
Oh, Levon was so close to flagging there. He's in 1 second left. He's in time.
And he does lose on time. Okay. Well, he struggles to defend that one. You and I struggle to keep this match close, but not really our fault. You're keeping things close with that facial hair. We're going to be right back to talk about what Fabiano Caruana should probably do in bullet to make this thing more of a match. Robert, don't go anywhere. The scoreboard reads a tough one right now for the American, but there are 9,000 of you tuned in on Twitch and Chess.com TV, wherever you may be joining us from. Thank you for your support. Thank you for that last sub, right as I say that. This has been a very entertaining day, albeit a rather surprising one, Robert. If we look at the stats, as we said, coming into the match, Levon Aronian was a favorite, but not by this much. As Switch says, not like this. Not like this.
Yeah, the stats backed Levon Aronian up. A lot of the fans picked him in the fantasy bracket. I did pick Fabi precisely because I knew that people would be picking Levon, but Levon backing it up. He trash talks a pretty mean game, but he also plays some great chess. And, well, with just the bullet portion left, 8-game lead, yeah, there's no chance that Levon is not winning this one.
Well, we'll see if Fabiano can prove us wrong. Both the math and the host would be proven wrong. But yeah, we tend to agree that the Celtic pride, the luck of the Irish is on Levon's side today. He will be winning his first match in Speed Chess Championship history. As you said, partner, he lost 2 of the closest matches we've ever had. He's been due, and today he brought everything against Fabiano. The bullet has begun. The clock is ticking on Fabiano, 30 minutes to prove a comeback or not. And regardless of what happens here, we will be back in less than 52 hours for Hikaru Nakamura versus Ho Yifan. But yeah, it's been all Levon all day. Let's see if we get some exciting bullet games.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that Levon continues to play e4. So I don't know if he's really thinking about considering e4 as a more permanent shift or just
just a blitz approach, right?
Or if it's just his blitz match that he's using it. And right now, all the pieces are traded off. Levon puts a piece on f5. Okay, pawn structure slightly more favorable for black.
A black? Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say the position is slightly more favorable to white in my mind because of the control over the center. But oh yeah, double G pawns, so slightly better for black.
Wait, queen e2. That looked like a blunder, right? Don't I just throw my what?
Queen e2. I could have moved my knight from d3, but yeah, no, that looked.
And then I bring my knight to e4 after. I thought that I just put my queen into the action.
Okay, here white should just play b3. No, knight g4 defends the a-pawn inadvertently, everybody, by unleashing the queen's threat on the d6 knight.
So maybe g5.
Ooh, g5, knight f6 check. King g7, knight h5 check. King g6.
Maybe king f8 here. That way you have to trade queens. So king f8, you have to go queen e5.
I didn't see. King g7 runs into queen takes d6. Fork town on e8.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's why he can't play king g7. Okay.
So now knight c4 here. e3. Mm-hmm. He had e3 there. A missed opportunity to play e3 to ruin white's pawn structure. Black is still better here, but there was a really good shot with e3 because you couldn't take the knight because the pawn would have promoted.
Okay, so with a 3-on-2, but only really a slight advantage to claim with it, likely this should be a draw. I say 3-on-2 because the pawns are doubled, obviously, but yes, it's really 3-on-3, which is why best play should be a draw. Rooting for some bullet blunders. Apparently, Hikaru says that g5 is good for black. I don't know exactly what Hikaru is saying in the Chess.com TV chat, but Hikaru Nakamura, the one, the only, is hanging out with us on Chess.com TV. Shout out to him.
Well, now g4 check and followed by knight e4. There's no way for white to keep hold of both c and g.
You can play king d3, and currently you're holding both, but likely just a matter of time before zugzwang.
And I'll play h5 as black and just kind of hold you at bay.
Hikaru giving you some love, Robert. It says you saw the e3 idea, which was awesome, even though Fabi missed it.
Hey, thanks, Hikaru. Where is he talking right now?
He's in the Chess.com TV chat. Just being awesome, being Hikaru.
Appreciate that. And right now, Okay, so c5 check, kick that king back.
Yeah, c5 king comes back, but then you have no entry point. So how do you?
That is a little annoyed about. But if I guess he'll go h4. No, h4. You'd have to go g3 as black.
I don't think there's any way in yet. So they just agreed to a draw. So perhaps this e3 idea by you was indeed Fabiano's last chance, and he's running out of chances, obviously, with time ticking away here.
Yeah, I'm just moving a mile a minute, just trying to figure things out.
26 minutes on the total game clock. Don't go anywhere. Remember, everybody, after the match, obviously we'll talk to both players and get their thoughts on what went down here today. Maybe we'll show some of the best Photoshops and announce who our one-year Diamond membership winner will be.
Okay, so here with the white pieces, Fabiano gets absolutely nothing out of the opening.
Yep.
In fact, maybe he just gets a worse position. That's what I'm seeing here. The d4 pawn is vulnerable. The bishop on g7 attacks a pawn. The bishop b2 only is a defensive piece. So far things going Levon's way completely. I mean, this is just great for black.
Yep.
And we just looked like a grandmaster floating behind Fabiano there, walking to the other side of the room.
Yep. A grandmaster who also is a popular streamer, Christian Carilla.
Yep, the Count.
The Count himself. People spamming those Hikaru emotes. Hikaru's got some of the best emotes, worthy of a subscription to his Twitch channel if you're not. He's got the Eric Hansen with a bib in his mouth because he adopts Eric Hansen regularly. They've got some of the emotes of the things Hikaru says very often.
Yep, and right now this looks so b6. I like that move.
Okay, but b6, the bishop on b4 is sort of stuck right now.
d4 and b3 are going to be problems.
Yeah. So he's just going to give up the b3 pawn for what? What's his?
For hope at making a draw by trying to move your queen in, let's say to e8. Yeah, there it goes.
There's always hope. There actually isn't always hope. That's but okay. There's still hope now, even though black is up a pawn, queen d8 check, picks d5. Don't do it. Mate on h1. So almost mated. Title of my autobiography.
Just queen e6 now at some point.
Queen a7. Oh no, he picks up the pawn. Should just be a draw now. A blunder by
queen d1. Queen d1
what?
Picks up f3 or queen f2.
Ah. Aha.
And d4 is also hanging in some lines.
Okay, where's the mate though? Okay, he gets out with g4. Levon plays f5. That's a nice move, threatening f4. Everybody, that's a big problem for the white king.
No, this looks like it's
bishop f6. With the threat of bishop f6 threatens queen h1 and queen takes. So okay, I would have played bishop f6 first, but it looks like this is
queen
just
f4
as good.
And king g6, right? Whoa, f4 check wins the queen.
F4 check, king h3, queen takes f3 is mate. Fabiano shrugs. Atlas shrugged. The world is on his shoulders, going up against Magnus Carlsen, and right now this isn't the best showing for the World Championship challenger. So. The French returns.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
I did just see that Hikaru is giving Levon a shout out, calling him Tricky Lev, saying he's just cruising. So maybe he's just trying to scout out some potential competition here.
Yeah, well, if Levon wins this match, and I'm saying if, with it being all but mathematically over, everybody, a reminder that we talked about Hikaru's next match, but Levon will be playing the winner of Anish Giri and Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. Now, I saw a question earlier in the Twitch chat, Robert, about why is it that Fabiano and Levon are playing in the first round. Well, first of all, note that every matchup is tough, and literally since the beginning of this tournament, there's been matchups like, Fabiano MVL, and I mean, there's always been insanely good first-round matchups. I mean, one year we had Aronian versus Grishik in the first round, right? So I don't think it's fair to say that this is not a matchup that happens in a tournament where you have a bunch of the world's best super GMs. But to note, the reason the pairings are what they are at the bracket, you can see, is because Chess.com ratings were used to seed the tournaments. That means that the players who had the highest ratings on Chess.com as of July 10th had the higher seedings. That's why I think one of the most lopsided first round matchups, Robert, if we bring up that bracket. I mean, what's your vote for the most lopsided first round? I'm going to go Giri Mamedyarov. That's definitely one that is kind of fun to see because of the Chess.com ratings. What do you think?
I just saw Fabi play rook takes g3. I was about to mention that sacrifice was open, but the lopsided matchup, it's hard to say because Giri and Mamedyarov, Giri being the favorite, I think is strange, but of course Nakamura versus Hou Yifan is, I mean, that's just,
right.
Hikaru is the heavy favorite to win it all, so that's going to be the most lopsided matchup, and I would say second after that is probably what
I guess what I didn't mean lopsided in the sense that that Giri or Shakhriyar or Mamedyarov are heavy favorites. I meant sort of a surprising first-round pairing.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely.
No, definitely Hikaru over Yifan is probably this. No one wants to be in Yifan's shoes, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, Fabi played the sack you thought of, but is it going to be enough?
How many pawns does he have?
He's got a few.
1, 2, now 5 on 2 pawns. Yeah, This should be sufficient. So d4 here. Open up that bishop. Wait, what's he doing with his queen? Levon is resourceful. Like, he's just coming for the black king now. Wait, I feel like White's not going to lose this game.
Yeah, something really crazy is happening under time pressure here with both kings wide open. I think either side could lose with a single move.
King d5, what is that? Knight c7 check, right?
Knight c7, king c5. You're not. Oh, knight a6. Oh, he had knight a6, but he doesn't go for it.
Look at this king on e7.
The queen's coming to d6.
So queen e6 check.
Wow.
King d8.
Look at this. This is ridiculous. A single second increment has Fabiano living on the edge.
Wait, is that a hanging knight now? Yep. King back to d8. No, I told you White was going to win.
Yeah. This is just crazy.
This is
crazy stuff for Fabiano today. Definitely not at his best. Here, queen c1 check, probably. Queen a6 also does the trick because two ladies are better than one when it comes to chess.
Important inclusion there.
Yeah, important inclusion there, and I can say that at this point, with a 10-game lead and a borderline adoption on the table right now, Levon Aronian is on his way to the second round in the Speed Chess Championship. We're under the 20-minute mark. Still 7,000 of you with us here. Amazing turnout today for our first official Speed Chess Championship match of the year. We've had a knockout tournament. We've had the knockout. We've had the open tournament, but Levon Aronian setting the tone for today's for this year's Speed Chess Championship with a big victory.
Yeah, it's setting the tone. He's up 10 games against someone who's number 2 in the world. That's as decisive as it really could get here. And for Fabiano, you just have to be disappointed the game hasn't gone the way you'd like. He's been struggling. Early on, he was competing well. He won the first game of the match. It's easy to forget that fact. But ever since then, it's been all Levon. And, well, Levon came to win. He is going to win. And just a very impressive display by him.
Absolutely. Shout out to Ed Vedder. I see you there, number 1 fan. I see you there. I still see Fabi's fro. That's also something I see, FYI.
Yep. He's shrinking in his chair, but his fro still looking large and in charge over here. So what's going on? G5 for Caruana, looking good?
Yeah. Okay, rook h7, going to force the h-file simplification. At some point, we're looking to make a move like g5 happen.
Well, I thought he should have done it before. Now it looks a little bit too late. The structure looking
better and better for black now because this g-pawn is weak and there's not really many other weak pawns on the board. I think probably g5 will be met by f5 in most positions.
Yep.
Which makes g5 less attractive. C4, sit tight. This is the kind of game that could eat 2 more minutes off the total game clock.
And now black is just much better here.
Yeah, and can just sort of play for 2 results for the next, I don't know, time to go get a snack. I'll be back in like 90 seconds. Or even longer. I'll be back in 5 minutes. This game will still be going.
Yeah. Actually, there's a tactic there that both players missed. That instead of king at e8, there's knight h3, I think. The pawn on g4
aha, very nice.
I mean, I was kind of waiting for that. That's the sort of the benefit of the king beyond the e2 square on the diagonal. Okay, so now knight h3 again. Okay, he's missing the idea with knight h3, but that's all right.
Yeah, knight h3. Knight h3, everybody. If you take it, the bishop takes g4, forking the king and knight, but okay. They're
go back. Now knight h3. Play knight h3.
They're not into the forking, and but Hikaru's still giving you mad prots, saying Robert is seeing everything today.
I mean, the glasses are extra sharp. I got one of those cleaners.
You clean them finally. I've been telling you to do that.
I essentially use Windex. So now
there you go. Yeah, Windex cures everything.
Okay, now king back to h6. I'm not sure you can actually stop this knight h3 plan. Well, you don't have to put your king on e2. So he doesn't do that.
Well, as I predicted, though, regardless of the result of this game, it's taking how many minutes off the game clock right now? Let's take a look back.
Play bishop c8 and hopefully
5 minutes off the game clock since when this game started almost. Okay. A gentleman's draw, actually nearly a 50-move draw with how many moves they wasted there. Lev misses knight h3 and fails to win that endgame.
Yep. That's why, when you're facing a bishop, you want to put your king on the opposite color of that bishop just so you don't walk into things like knight h3.
Okay, so there you go. Another pro tip from Robert. Pro tip from Mr. Hess. Let's try to analyze some bullet. Let's do what Nesmit Dinov said. Actually, he didn't even mention how crazy bullet is, but we'll try to have an analysis board here and stay with it. So black should just play bishop g7 and castle here. What's going on?
Yeah, you can take on d3, which he ends up doing. You can even bring bishop d6 because your bishop doesn't need to be on this diagonal facing that c3 pawn. A bishop on d6 gives you hope of the future, and there he goes, of putting your queen on the diagonal as well to threaten some checkmating ideas. So queen e7 check, you could have just thrown that in to force a queen exchange.
Probably should have.
Which was good for black. And now I want to go knight e4 or knight h5. Both those options look pretty tempting.
What's the idea of knight h5?
To go to f4.
Okay. There's no g4 shots on that?
Well, knight f4 has knight e2 check, big threat.
Okay, yeah, big time, yeah.
So here, okay, bishop g5 for white. So I think white's gotten out of this.
Gotten out of the bind temporarily, but bishop takes f3 might come.
So I should bring a knight to d2 as he's done. Now a7 is actually hanging here.
And that's a key point, because if black plays a simple move like bishop e7, just trying to deal with the tactics, white just might gobble the pawn.
Yep, and f3 is close to trapping that bishop. Not quite yet, but it's
very close, yeah.
So, okay, what? So f3, bishop bishop c2 is an option. So that's why the bishop stays alive. Now bishop c2 is a good move.
Okay, bishop to c2, takes e6.
No, don't take with the pawn.
Yeah, why did he take with the pawn? Giving him the open file. He wants e5. He wants e5. Wait, that's why.
Can you take on e6 now? Yep. Game over.
Oh my gosh! Just frustrated. Fabiano laughs it off. Yet again, losing a game that he shouldn't have. Specifically, that queen takes e6 was definitely much better there.
This looks bad. So
it does look bad.
Now?
Levon playing the push and Harry. Harry's getting involved on the H file.
Are you turning into Simon Williams?
No, I just thinking of things to say, and sometimes I don't think about what I'm saying. I'm seeing a therapist about it. Told you that.
Okay, well, that was in confidence. I didn't want to reveal that on air, but that's your prerogative. You can really.
You can air out your dirty laundry.
I just did laundry, thank you very much. I don't need to do it
which
again.
You should. That's why you're wearing the Chess.com polo. Nice.
Exactly. Fresh out the wash.
Yep.
So let's see. Can black sacrifice on g5? I love sacrificing exchanges. So for those of you who are not familiar,
he does it. Petrosian. Here we go. The queen takes g5. I mean, I'm a fan of sacking the exchange when it's good, and this looks pretty good here too. Like we said, the Petrosian Armenian school of chess coming out. Levon's gonna win this game in fine fashion. He's gonna put another pony on e5, which blocks e4, keeps the bishop bad, and probably g5 will fall at some point. If queen d2, I think I'm just trading on d4 and then taking g5, right?
Yep, that looks pretty straightforward. Now knight g to e5, right?
Knight g to e5 gains a tempo on the queen.
Can I even have just played queen takes g5 and given you the f7 square? There was no real need to.
That's interesting. No need to, though, as you said. And here, no need to panic.
H6.
Queen h2, he'll move the rook, develop your bishop, maybe to c6, where it hits e4, or just come into h3.
G5 now, just keep pushing, yep. You can't go queen f6 because queen h2, knight g4 check, wins the queen on f6.
Ouch town.
So queen has nowhere to go. So queen h2
queen
check
h2,
now.
King up, knight g4, king e1.
Then queen takes g3.
Perhaps bishop h3 is coming now. Yeah, he plays it.
Knight g4. Look at rook h6, same idea.
This is one of the most surprising lopsided matches we've ever had in SEC history. Rook f6 check is just winning here. Can't take it because knight g4. And Levon plays it. Bishop g4 looks like a pretty good idea.
Bishop g2 is a free piece. Yep, there it is. Bishop f3 check, queen e2 check, queen e4 mate. No, it's not mate.
Knight g4 check wins the queen, though. Okay, at this point, Fabi's just hoping for the end of the day. That's the kind of day he's having. Just hoping for it to all come to an end. We have e4 knight c6, but Levon is ruthless. He's not messing around with bullet openings. Like we said, this is Levon's day to make a statement about he is here to win it all, as he told our own Mike Klein in an interview before the match started that, you know, he doesn't plan on not winning this year's SEC. I know Hikaru hears that.
Oh yeah, you know, you got to give a shout out to Hikaru because he, of course, has come very, very close to winning the SEC, but lost to Magnus Carlsen in both matches. Magnus, of course, being the beast that we all know and appreciate. But here, without Magnus this year, it's Hikaru's. Sergei Karyakin will have something to say about this, but Levon Aronian really impressing in this opening match.
Queen's Night Out wondering in the Chess TV chat, why didn't Levon play like this in the candidates? Well, I don't know why. I don't know. Different tournament.
Hikaru says Lev has as good a chance as anyone. With a smiley face. I don't know if Hikaru means that, but it is a compliment to Levon for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and Levon is as we said. I mean, obviously it's our job to talk and provide context, and hopefully make it entertaining and educational. But we mentioned that Levon has lost two of the closest matches in SEC history. Certainly one of the first round exits that who knows what he would have done if he had gotten farther in the event, right?
Yep. So Hikaru now adds Sergey, Lev, or myself flip a coin. I wonder what he thinks about Mamedyarov. No mention of him, and that tactic.
And Mamedyarov has never played the format before, so I'm curious on that. But this knight takes h7 was really nice, by the way. Knight takes h7. Just bring the other rook over to f1 now.
So rook c3 actually just wins the bishop back.
And if check, bishop f1. Or rook f1.
Yeah, rook f1, forceful.
You're winning a piece and maintaining the attack. Fabiano resigns again. And are we getting in the realm of adoption? How many games in a row has Levon won?
Fabiano made one draw somewhere because he's 5.5 points.
Okay, this is an impressive performance to say the least, and Fabiano on full tilt.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those days where you lose a couple games, you just continue losing. It happens to the best of us. We saw it happen to MVL, right?
Yep.
He played against Hikaru. The start of the match was pretty interesting, and then all of a sudden he started losing every single game. And that's credit to the players who are winning. In this case, Levon Aronian, but it's not Fabiano's day at all. He's really struggling here.
For sure.
And shout out to R Beast in the Chess.com chat, because R Beast said that we went to the same high school. So awesome on that front. I have no idea who you are, but sweet.
Alma mater.
Yep, gotta represent. All right. So in this position, this looks like a Levon Aronian setup with pawn a5. Okay, b6, get that bishop out, fianchetto it. What you really want for black is for that knight from d7 to c5. But what you want from white, if that bishop ever moves from c5, my knight will go to e3 to f5. So now the e4 pawn is a clear target.
So bishop d3. White's going to prepare the plan, though, that you talked about. And the question is, once you get there, can you start launching a kingside attack? Queen e2. One funny idea is maybe you want to relocate the bishop from d3 to c2 and b3 and bring it to a new diagonal. Okay, you may not have time for that. Takes under 4. Oh, I thought he would take with the e-pawn and gang up on e4, but g-pawn. Slightly surprising? No, not for you?
No, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, because I am surprised. And now this makes sense from Fabiano. He's trying to bring his knight to the f5 square, as he's doing right now. You have to be careful of your e4 pawn, because if you do something like g4, rook takes d3 comes immediately. Those exchange sacks are thematic and straightforward. Here, rook g8, I think white's going to play, okay, bishop c4. If you went g4, I guess there's a sacrifice on the horizon. Yeah,
but here comes bishop c4, knight f5, bring the other knight into f3 at some point, and e5 falls.
But if you go g4 now, white, black's just going to h5. So you have to be careful about that as well, because your king on h2 is not safe.
Really, though? I mean, there's these threats of knight f3. I think I can give up e4 for e5, because f7 is a target in a lot of positions. Oh, he sacks on d2. Petrosian coming out again. Oh, I think that's perfect. He's going to undermine f2. g3 falls.
Yep.
Wow.
I think he had. Yeah, now it's just crushing.
Queen c5 check. g3's falling. Queen takes c4. Queen takes c4, wins a piece, followed by knight d2. Okay, he's going to win a piece the old-fashioned way. Who needs forks? OMG.
Yikes.
Fabiano down 19.5 to 5.5.
And we're learning the best margin of victory ever is 17 games. And right now we're at 14.
Yeah. I believe it was by Magnus Carlsen over
Tigran Petrosian.
Tigran Petrosian. I think that was the all-time record in the SEC as far as margin of victories. We'll see. Okay. Well, feels bad. Rough day for Fabiano. Only 4 minutes left, but still super interesting for us from the perspective that Levon Aronian really making a statement and setting the tone for us to be excited about whoever he plays, whether it be Giri or Mamedyarov in the next round. Can say that.
I'm just a little speechless what's going on right now.
Yep.
I want to comment on the chess, but I keep looking at the scoreboard, seeing 19.5 to 5.5, and it's hurting. It's really hurting for Fabi. But okay, we just have a few more games left. Let's continue focusing on the chess. I guess I must make myself get in that mindset here. And so knight on g4, coming to the e5 square, trying to make use of the fact that white has the two knights versus his bishop on f5. So if these knights get traded, for example, knight takes e5, you see a wonderful knight outpost on the e5 square versus a bishop. That's not a bad bishop, but still, it can never kick that knight away. The pawn on g5 came from the f file, which means you can't go f6 and kick the knight out. So right now, black intending to lock down the position, eventually bishop to e4. So similarly, like the knight on e5, it's got a great outpost, well defended by pawns. This bishop can go to e4 and try to stay centralized and defended. Though the g4 pawn now is a bit of a target. So queen h4, black should go to g6. And I think in this point of view, bishop e4 did come. h3 should be played by white. That's the reason why I didn't want to put my bishop on e4, because my bishop on f5, if you play h3 and I capture, you have to take with the g pawn. Now with my bishop on e4, you can just take with the rook, put a rook back on g3. Okay, now I'll play queen. I don't want to trade. I'll play queen back, queen g3. I sort of like queen to f2 to go rook g3. Oh, look at this. So now he's throwing pawn g4. in effect, I think it's pawn g4 is happening no matter what. That was a clever little snake by Levon. Queen h4 to g3 to h2.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the queen behind the rook. And here's g4, take on h5. Looks
as Levon said, or as Hikaru said. Tricky skin complexion or tactics for Levon. So.
Yep. So I don't even know what to say now. It looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I
can't even play king f8 because knight d7 was forking the king and queen. Almost over. Fabi looks up and says, "When is it over?" This should be the last game of the match. We will be joined by the players right now. Still 5,000 of you with us, despite the lopsided match here. We appreciate all of the support, all those who subbed today, all the donations, everything. Thanks for being here.
Last game. The kind of the torture and the sadness will end, thankfully for Fabi.
Yep.
But, he can...
But the Levon hype, Aronian hype. I mean, he played like a monster today.
Yeah, just total beast.
Yep.
And a lot of respect for him. I've always liked Levon a lot. And he's an amazing player. And I love that he showed his flexibility today. He's played many different openings.
Yep.
He's been able to play e4 with white. And we know him and we love him as a great d4 and c4 player and over-the-board chess. But now that he's adding e4 to his repertoire, at least in the speed chess format, it's making things much more exciting and making him harder to pin down and prepare for. And that's what we talked about, Danny, in the qualifier, right? Georg Meyer is much easier to prepare for than many other players because he sticks to his guns every game. Whereas a player like Levon, clearly mixing and matching depending on the match situation, it's going very well for him thus far.
Yep. Absolutely, and well said. And we'll see if that's something he continues in his next match, as Levon Aronian will be moving on to face the winner between Anish Giri and Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. So that won't be for a month and a half, 2 months or so. So don't be in a huge rush till that next round matchup goes down with Levon. But maybe Fabiano ends on a high note here with time officially being up. The match is over. This is the last game, regardless of the result, and then we will have a quick chat with the players before moving on.
Yep. And, well, I don't even know what to ask Fabi. I've been trying to think about that. We'll see. But for Levon, there's no way he could have expected this, so I am curious how he's feeling after this demolition.
Yep. Well, Levon passed 3,000 at both Blitz and Bullet, as someone on Twitch just pointed out. So, maybe that's why he was so ruthless today. Really wanted those 3,000 marks to let Hikaru know. He's coming for him. Coming for the highest ratings.
He was upset about his seeding. He didn't realize that it was by Chess.com ratings. And then I'm underrated is what he was saying. 28.50 or whatever he was to start the match. What did he start this match at?
I don't know. Someone will have to check into that, look at the game archive history, but it certainly wasn't anywhere close to where he finished now. And
we're learning that Carlsen versus So was an 18-game margin. So it's not like
that's right.
Time.
Magnus was really in rare form on that day, and Wesley was not. So something with C7 check now? No? Doesn't work.
C7, King D7, Bishop D5, trade bishops in D5, play Rook B7 after that. Keep your C pawn.
Yeah.
It's going to be
should be one that Fabiano can push for a win, but what was that? Okay, he's switching. Switching to the king side and pre-moving quickly. Levon really down to the increment, everybody.
Yep, but now this endgame is much easier to hold than what we were looking at before.
Yeah.
Because the 3-on-2, if you trade one pair of rooks, theoretical draw. If you keep the rooks on the board, well, you're going to have a hard time doing anything with your pawn F2 under threat. And this is not the way to do it for Fabi. He should have moved his rook F1 over to the A file and try to play rook A7 with his rook on F3. The rook on F3 is very strong. Now he almost flagged. Levon's going to flag.
0.8. Yeah. Oh, he pre-moved. He
so
pre-moved just enough to gain some increment back.
And I can see Levon moving on camera, so clearly he's like,
Yeah.
He's not jittery per se, but he's bouncing.
Oh, he goes for the mouse slip. Okay. Last try to swindle his opponent, but not enough. Fabiano ends the match today with a win, despite the tough day. And we are joined quickly by both players. Fabiano and Levon, can you both hear us?
Yeah.
Great. Do you mind lowering your camera just a little bit so we can see you both a little more clearly? It goes without saying, it was an amazing match today. Great play for you, Levon. Your thoughts on how the day went? You were obviously seemed to be feeling good, in pretty good form, and your thoughts about what went down here.
Yeah, I think Fabiano wasn't playing his openings, so that's why when you're playing positions that you're not too familiar, he's trying to hide his preparation for a backhouse match.
For the backhouse match.
Yes.
Well, obviously we speculated about that exact point, Fabiano. Clearly, as Levon said, not necessarily your best day, but maybe not by accident. You were not playing your regular repertoire. You even played some French openings. I mean, Robert and I had a field day with your choice of the French and the Benoni. But jokes aside, obviously I know the match didn't go the way you wanted, but talk a little bit about maybe the struggles today, and was it just hard to find your form playing positions that you weren't familiar with?
No, I just got very tilted at some point. And I wasn't really thinking about my moves especially in the opening. I was playing just very, very quickly and not really thinking about what I was doing, and usually getting very bad positions. And the few times I did get good positions, I usually messed them up pretty quickly. So, but at some point it was just it got very, very, very tilted, which is never a good thing in Blitz.
Yeah, so it was to you. It wasn't as much about the opening, just kind of psychologically frustrated with some of those close losses. So it makes sense. Robert?
Well, Levon, I have to ask you, so what is going on with the light up there? People kept asking if you're in like a tanning salon or in a bar. Can you explain this light behind you?
All right. I'll just move my camera a little bit so you can see. You see?
Oh,
Do you see
look
the
at
piano?
you. Yep.
Do you see the drums?
Yeah.
I love it.
And there's a guitar. So, it's a musical stage.
I love it. Well, that explains a
So
lot.
So what kind of light do you expect at home that also serves the purpose of being hangout for musicians, chess players?
Well, Levon, you're moving on past the first round for the first time in your Speed Chess Championship career. We were talking about how, of all players never to make it past the first round, you had two of the best, most exciting, closest matches. And how excited are you for the remainder of this tournament, knowing you will have the winner between Anish Giri and Mamedyarov? How do you look at that matchup, and who would you rather face?
Well, as usual, I'm going to root for my Anish boy. I'm a big fan of his play, so I would love to meet and play against him. But I think Shahryar is a very tough opponent. So I still keep my fingers crossed for Anish, but we'll see. I'm enjoying it. I mean, I didn't have any drastic problems with my connection, so far so good.
So far so luck. The luck of the Irish is with you there, as you're sporting the Celtics jersey. Well, Fabiano, you had a lot of fans today, and a lot of support, regardless of the tough result. Everybody looking forward to what's ahead for you this year. I know at this point you probably just don't care about that, but last final thoughts. We thank you for being here, and any secrets you want to tell us? How's preparation going?
Yeah, it's going well. Unfortunately, a match like this really puts a dent in your will to to look at chess anymore.
Yeah.
At least you want some sort of fight, but this was quite a disastrous match.
Well, what is Christian cooking for you tonight?
I have no idea.
No.
I don't want to.
Well, either way, maybe a beer with your meal and forget about it. But we know it didn't go the way you wanted to, Fabiano. But we really thank you for being here, Levon. Wishing you the best of luck in the next round. No more silly questions. Besides your predicted record for the Celtics next year.
Well, winning the conference. I mean, it's a start, and then we'll see how it goes.
All right, Robert. Anything else?
Well, I definitely want to go to an NBA game now with Levon, but I also am just mesmerized by that performance. And the last question I have for you, Levon, you had mentioned in your interview with Mike Klein, perhaps jokingly, that as long as you don't get flagged, you'd be good. Did you specifically work on your bullet portion? Because you were very impressive in that time control, in addition to all
No, I think I was really bad in bullet. But the thing is, Fabiano had a disastrous blitz start, so he couldn't exploit it. But if the match was close, I knew that this is my weakness. And unfortunately, I really dislike playing bullet, so I don't think it's going to improve anytime soon.
Got it. Well, regardless of whether bullet's your weakness, you sent a message here today. A very nice victory for you. So congratulations, Fabiano. Again, thank you. We'll see you next year. Maybe as world champion by the time next year's event starts. We wish you the best of luck in November. And thank you both once again.
Nice.
Thank you.
All righty then. Well, Robert, as we take a look at the bracket here, and
hopefully we can get Levon on the Russian stream too, right?
That's awesome. Right. Levon is here, and you and I will be dropping out of this call. Actually, Levon, you're still there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think our show will be coming to an end here momentarily, but we're gonna mute ourselves and let you join the Russian call. And thanks again, and congratulations again.
Great. Thank you.